South Africa. We'll play some of the clips from him later on and a conversation he had earlier on today. But in the meantime, let's start then with the big issue around the issue of Brown Mokgotsi. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. Thanks for connecting. I was in the Eastern Cape yesterday, as you know, and it's just so wonderful. So many people came up to us, listening to the show. Great to connect with us, and we are very appreciative to connect with you as well, right? Now, how do you call in? 086 000 2032 to call in live, and then to WhatsApp, it's 0614 104 107, and those are text messages, 30 seconds max, but you can also, that's for text or voice note, 30 seconds max. You can tweet as well using that hashtag, the National Pulse. Lots of comment, by the way, even from the Mandela Foundation regarding the flotillas, which we will, I'll certainly get to reading just now. But let's go first things first. The ANC has released a statement today distancing itself, the party that is, from allegations of organised criminal activity leveled against the controversial Northwest businessman Brown Mokgotsi, and they've confirmed that he is not a member of the party. So with me is Professor Andre Duvenage, political analyst from the Northwest University. Prof. Duvenage, good to connect with you as always. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Nice talking again, sir.
Much appreciated. Right, let's do this firstly. There's a clip that speaks to exactly this issue, and it comes from the ANC's Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula. So let's play that first.
Brian Mokgotsi is a reflection of a bad ANC member, if he is, because he is implicated on siphoning money in the name of the ANC. ANC can't associate itself with such bad behavior. Siphoning money in the reports and all of that, involved in this and that, illegal missions and all of that. ANC can't pride itself of such people if they are its members. And they will face the full wrath of the ANC and accountability from the side of the party. We are a big organization, so he is just but one of others who behave like that. And that is why the question of money in our organization has generally become one of the things that the Electoral Commission is addressing. But it's not through workshops, it's what action we're going to take. Because we know money has been exchanging hands, and characters such as this who claim ANC membership and they don't understand what it means to be a member of the ANC have done deeds that are beyond imagination. I can tell you, we will never associate ourselves with characters like Brian Mokgotsi if he's a member of the ANC and his activities. He must account about that, and the ANC will stand up to such characters who pride themselves openly and publicly about the pride of being involved in things that do not raise the name of the ANC in good stead. Notwithstanding his right as a citizen in terms of the matters he's implicated in, because Alderam Patem requires that he must be listened to. But for the party like ours, we can't have such elements in the organization running amok. And you can see there's no fear in his face, nor the pride of being an ANC member. And he throws it like as if it's a cheap thing. ANC, yes, I'm a member. I did this and did that. Yes, there's nothing wrong connecting with so and so and all of that and so on. I do have relations with them. Not in our name. Not in our name. The ANC can't associate ourselves with such dubious characters and so on, and we pride ourselves of them, that they carry the emblem of that they once or they are members of our organization. The people are telling us out there very clearly, we trust the ideas of what the ANC stand for, but we don't trust the vehicle. Who are the people who are battering this vehicle? It's characters like those.
Right, that is the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula. Now, as you can gather from the tone and the words he used, that was actually yesterday ahead of today's ANC confirmation that in fact Brown Mokhotsi is not a member of the party. In fact, they've issued a statement, and I shouldn't read it. The ANC has noted recent allegations that certain individuals, including Mr. Oupa Brown Mokhotsi, are alleged to be involved in serious organized criminal activity. Our membership records confirm that Mr. Mokhotsi's ANC membership has expired. We can now confirm that Mr. Mokhotsi is therefore not an ANC member. These allegations are deeply concerning, not only for the individuals involved, but also for the communities and institutions whose safety, stability, and confidence are undermined by criminal syndicates. They also made the point, the ANC, in terms of their statement, that should any individual implicated in criminal activity apply for membership, such an application will be processed strictly in terms of the ANC constitution, which governs the rights and obligations of every member. So they sort of try and match that up. So they're not saying he never was a member. In fact, he was a member. But that membership has now since lapsed. Professor Duvenage has been listening into all of this. He's the political analyst from the Northwest University. Well, what do you make first about the furore around linking Brown Mokhotsi, this person with huge allegations around organized criminal activity, to the ANC?
Well, to start with, it's absolutely clear that Fikile Mbalula would like to get distance from the allegations with regard to organized crime and particularly the link towards Brian Mokhotsi in order to save the image of the ANC. But to me, it's not very convincing. The fact of the matter is, at one point in time, Mr. Mokhotsi was part of the ANC. The fact that he's no more a member of the ANC at this point doesn't make him not accountable to whatever go on. That's the first point. The second point is he didn't act alone. And clearly there were interactions between himself and senior politicians who are currently still within the leadership of the ANC. And Mr. Fikile Mbalula doesn't explain that connection. And at the core of everything, if we talk about a mafia state or a Pakanat state as they refer to it, what is the distinguishing characteristic is the level of cooperation between criminals and or the criminal elite on the one side, and on the other side, the political elite. Now, if we go down in history, you will pick up that link. Since the arms deal in the late 90s, you can take it through Chancellor's House, Eskom, the oil gates, the travel gates. You can take it towards the whole face of state capture, not to talk about what's happening at the local government level. And then we come to the Pala Pala incident, and currently the Makwanazi investigation or the Maslanga Commission of Investigation. So there's a huge line of activities that need to be explained by the ANC. And clearly they are implicated, and the politicians. To put all the blame on Brian Mokhotsi, I think, is probably a bit unfair. However, I must tell you that what I picked up from the evidence, and it is not yet tested within a court, it is very serious, and it is of an organized criminal nature.
Okay, so I mean, look, in terms of Brown Mokhotsi, I mean, he would not be the first person linked to a political party in some form that commits a criminal activity or could be accused of of being involved in a criminal activity. What I'm saying, that could well be the case for many politicians or business people, friends of politicians across the political spectrum. So it's not an ANC unique situation. But you make the point that the ANC has been very clear that at this point in time, he's not a member of the ANC. And effectively, in terms of what they've quoted, they're suggesting that, in fact, if he were, he would be expelled from the ANC based upon the allegations of the records. Now, why would that not be convincing them? I mean, what more can they say? Because, I mean, the same thing can apply to other political parties when they're also faced with similar situations.
Okay, let's talk about the ANC, because the ANC is applicable within this context. We can also discuss other parties, but every party has its own disciplinary processes, its own what they like to call ethics committee or whatever they would like to call it. And we have seen it at several occasions that within the ANC, they decide to refer these types of issues to their ethics committee. And then the ethics committee is deciding on this matter. And sometimes it is matters of a criminal nature. And what we are seeing here is that the process of taking it to the party is bypassing the rule of law principle. It is as if there's clearance within the ANC. There is not going to be any action coming from the criminal justice system or the rule of law. And that is a typical perspective of a party that is above the law. Within the context of normal democratic institutions and parties in this regard, there will sometimes be disciplinary processes, which can mean that an individual may be expelled from the party, and we have examples in this regard. And then secondly, it may end up in the criminal justice system, especially if there's criminal allegations in this regard. And when it comes to Brian Mogotsi, and when it comes to the Makwanasi allegations, these are of a serious, very, very serious criminal nature. Just to take the Tembisa incident or episode, we are talking about the Tabita Deokaran assassination.
Yeah.
We are talking about 2 billion rand involved in illegal tendering and other related processes of misconduct. So these are very serious. Therefore, I'm saying that what Fikile Mbalula told us is not convincing.
Okay.
It's not convincing me that the ANC and their leadership are not implicated within this bigger context of serious misconduct.
I take the point about, you can be a former member of a party and not a member right now, but it doesn't mean that you're not supportive and you're not in the inner circle of a party. I mean, I think of a person who could be part of a, whatever, football club. You could be a supporters club member, but that you don't sign up again, but you still love the team and you can go there every week. So you could still be part of the inner circle. Do you get a sense? Because, I mean, this is really the nub of it. If there are allegations around criminal activity against him, that's one thing, and let the law take its course. But if I'm right, you are suggesting that even right now, member or no member, he is too close to members of the ANC to the point that it actually colors the ANC, because the position what we're talking about now is not putting him in the dock. That's going to happen anyway. It's whether we should put the ANC in the dock.
I have no doubt that there are serious ANC leaders implicated in this regard. And this is not about the misconduct of Brian Mogotsi himself. It's also implicating his relationship with political actors and individuals playing a role in terms of what I earlier referred to as the relationship between a criminal elite and a political elite. And that is a real concern at this point in time. And it's also interesting that we have seen a number of developments with regard to the Masanga Commission of Investigation. The leading prosecutor resigned. The one that is testifying, Khumalo, became sick. And the previous police minister died in France, our ambassador, Nathi Mthethwa, under what some people believe is not above board circumstances.
All right, just pause on that, because I want to pick up.
That's controversial.
All right, just pause on it. I want to pick up on that point from you right after this.
Dis-Chem has the best deals just for you, with everything you need on your healthy living journey. Buy 3, get the cheapest free on the Future Life range for nutrient-rich meals for the whole family. Get 2 plus 1 cheapest free on all delicious traditionally baked Alet's rusks. And save 20% on Primal Apple Cider Vinegar 120 capsules to boost your metabolism. Offers valid until 19 October at Dis-Chem, your healthy living destination. Better health starts here.
TSG Hoffenheim and FC Köln are both on 7 points. They're all searching for victory at the Prezero Arena. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch TSG Hoffenheim versus FC Köln this Friday, 3 October at 8:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, we'll conclude our conversation with Professor Andre Duvenage. It gives me a chance to invite you to call in, and you can call in right now because we'll take it. Many people WhatsApping because you got the brief, you know the story, you know the drill, let's put it that way. WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107, but to call in live 086 000 2032. What do you think about the conversation I've been having right now with Professor Andre Duvenage? Which parts do you concur with? What do you disagree with? And what are your own thoughts about many of these issues? Right, Prof. Duvenage, let's then touch on the last part you made. You're suggesting that the ongoing commission of inquiry that's just kicked off, there are too many coincidences, if I hear you correctly, in the last week.
Yes,
yeah?
Absolutely, there are too many coincidences, and there's also a systematic problem. And that has to do with the fact that that commission is going to report to the president. But the president himself is implicated. So you have a contradiction in this regard. But on the other side, fortunately, you have a parallel parliamentary investigation that is representative of a number of parties, which I believe will create some sort of a balance. And they have already indicated people they would like to testify before their committee, and the president was identified as one of them. So the process is a bit problematic. What is happening is problematic. And maybe I can give the historical context to this as well. If you go back to the Sereti Commission of investigation in terms of the arms deal, you will find similar things. Some people resigned short-term into the investigation. Others died under certain circumstances. So it's becoming problematic. It seems as if there's some sort of an intervention. And I'm not going to say that there was an intervention in the death of Nathi Mthethwa. I honestly don't know. But if I was a police investigator, and I know the political environment in South Africa, I will definitely look for motives within that conflict.
So you suspect that you think there's sufficient evidence in terms of not just that, but another one witness being ill, another being stepping down. You suggesting there's enough evidence, if not clear evidence, to suggest that, hey, there's something that needs to be investigated. Right?
Absolutely so, and they are playing for time in the hope that time will bring some sort of a solution. And look at the Zondo Commission, where they investigated state capture, and I'm not going to discuss the content of state capture, but that file is now lying on the desk of the president for probably about 4 or 5 years, and there was no clear reaction from his side despite promises. And now we must remember that senior ANC members were implicated in this regard, and there was no action taken, taking us to the point where people are asking serious questions about the effectiveness and the efficiency of the criminal justice system.
Well, maybe that's
in
why
South
we're having the investigation the inquiry that is, as we are having right now. Professor Andre Duvenage, thank you for your time. Much appreciated as always. Political analyst from the Northwest University is Prof. Duvenage. Right, of course you have your own opinion. Of course I need to hear you, and let's hear you right after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, there is a lot that has come through, particularly on the issue of Brian Mokhotsi.
Ashraf, if this Brian Mokhotsi is not a member of the ANC, why is he seen in official gatherings working hand in hand with the minister, with the suspended minister of police? What are they trying to say? Can I, as a non-member, just go there and say, Mr. Minister, can I walk with you and take photos with you? Aye, they must not play with us. Kolofelo, Rustenburg.
Thanks for that, Kolofelo. Well, I suppose you can be a non-member, as in official member, but it doesn't mean you can't have huge influence within a political party.
Ashraf, Fikile Mbalula is saying nothing about Senzo Mchunu, who is in communication with this Brian Mokhotsi guy, but he's busy putting big weights on Brian Mokhotsi, but saying absolutely nothing on his own comrade Senzo Mchunu. It's very shocking. When people are saying ANC is a terrorist organization, sometimes you can tend to believe them, because Fikile Mbalula is saying absolutely nonsense. Thanks.
Yeah, but why would you think that it's okay for someone to say the ANC is a terrorist organization? That's completely different. You know, there was an accusation of that party in the apartheid era. In terms of now, you can actually say that there are elements within the ANC that are corrupt. You can say a lot that they are poor on service delivery because the facts are there. But to link it to a terrorist organization, I'm really not sure how one does make that link. Here's another.
Yeah, Ashraf, Fikile Mbalula's talks are all wind. Almost 99% of the ANC top officials are corrupt. The case in point is that one of Ramaphosa as well, and many others through Zondo commissions. So then they've been corrupt, and they're still corrupt. So he must just keep quiet, keep his big mouth shut. Thanks. We'll hear in Kuma.
Okay, well, he's got to have an opinion because he's the Secretary General of the ANC. Like, what do you expect him not to talk? Then we complain that he doesn't talk. Here's another, Makaya saying, Ashraf, the ANC is rotten top to bottom, from Ramaphosa, dollars in sofa. Corruption is the DNA of the ANC. Mokhotsi is doing what is in the culture of the ANC. They can't help it. They are just corrupt. And another one, Ashraf Mokhotsi actively campaigned for Ramaphosa, the ANC, and he's a comrade of Senzo Mchunu, and that's what we all know, regardless of whether he's an active ANC member or not, coming from Farai. That really has been the line that many others have said as well. So I'll tell you what, right, here's another. The Prof hit the nail on the head with regards to membership. Can Fikile provide us with how many ANC members have their membership expired but remain members of the ANC from, I think it's FIS in Cape Town? Well, there we are. Lots to consider. Keep on keeping those calls coming. But, I mean, again, if you were the ANC right now, what would you do? So if you're not happy with the statement of the ANC and you're not happy with the pronouncements of the Secretary General, and let's say in this case you are a supporter of the ANC, what would you like? Yeah, I'll direct it to you. If you're a supporter of the ANC, what would you like your party to do regarding the issue of Brian Mokhotsi in terms of how they communicate it and the action they take or do not take? 3:30, it's news headlines time. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, both parents, regardless of gender, sex, colour or circumstance, will now be entitled to equal parental leave of 4 months and 10 days that they can share. The Constitutional Court has unanimously confirmed the constitutional invalidity of sections of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. There's traffic disruptions on the N1 at Yesterberg between Mokopane and Bulukwane in Limpopo after a truck lost a load of bags of cement. The Transport Department says the truck lost control and overturned after a tyre burst. And pro-Palestinian supporters in Cape Town are demanding the release of all detainees who were part of the intercepted Global Samud flotilla carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound slow moving towards Crown Interchange, the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards Allendale Road. The N1 southbound in Centurion is where a stationary vehicle is reported near Old Johannesburg Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound, a stationary vehicle after the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 westbound is a stationary vehicle at Key Ridge, and the N3 eastbound slow moving at Marion Hill Toll Plaza. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards Bunga Avenue. Victoria Road is slow moving through Camps Bay, and Montague Drive is slow moving at Drill Avenue. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Tumi, you have a not so good news story regarding the Proteas women's team, right?
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, the Proteas women lost by 10 wickets to England in the World Cup opener. Batting first, South Africa suffered a heavy collapse, having been bowled out for just 69 in 20 overs. Now, this is their second lowest ODI total in history. Senalo Jafta top scored with 22 of 36 overs. The next best contributions came from Anneke Bosch and Ayabonga Kaka, who managed just 6 runs each. Lindsay Smith took 3 for 7 in her 4 overs, and in reply, it was easy for England, hitting 73 for no loss. Amy Jones top scoring at 40 off 50 balls. Hopefully they'll do well in their next match. But in rugby, Ireland could move to number 1 in the World Rugby rankings this weekend. However, it would need the Proteas to lose to Argentina at Twickenham by 15 points or more. And if the Boks lose to Los Pumas by less than 15 points, they will stay as number 1 in the world. If the All Blacks don't beat the Wallabies by 15 plus points in Perth, a Springbok win could see their advantage over Ireland at the top increase by nearly 1 rating point to 2.66 points. And if both the Boks and the All Blacks win, then the All Blacks will climb above Ireland into second place behind the Boks. Then in football, Mamelodi Sundowns head coach Miguel Cardoso has warned that the season's Carling knockout campaign will definitely be tough, stressing that every team is motivated to topple them. Speaking ahead of their first round clash against Marumo Gallants this weekend, Cardoso says supporters must understand that Sundowns face extra pressure because of their dominance in South African football. And despite that dominance, the Tshwane Giants' struggles in domestic cup competitions have been a big talking point over the past decade, particularly in the last 5 years. And Cardoso admits that the results so far this season are proof that Sundowns are in for another testing campaign.
I've been also passing some messages, positive, of involvement, of gathering around the team to the fans. The fans of Mamelodi Sundowns are used to win a lot in the past decade, let's say. A lot of championships won in a row, aiming to go back on a Champions League trophy. But also it's important that people understand that the serious work we do in the club is really to put us always in the level of fighting for all the trophies that we can, as much as possible, to the last stages. But there's people also working in other houses that also avoid and make our job difficult. And I think that this year we will have a very hard competition in South Africa, for sure.
Well, then over to the FIFA Under-20 World Cup, where Amajita is currently competing. They beat New Caledonia 5-0 to record their biggest ever win at the tournament. The result marks only their second victory in Under-20 World Cup history, the first being a 2-0 win over Honduras in 2009. Siwelela FC striker Sivuye Magidi stayed with a brace, while Sivuye Nkwali, Shaquille April and and Lazola Maku added a goal each to complete the round. And head coach Raymond Mdaka had made 2 changes to the starting lineup, introducing Mfundo Vilakazi and Mgirigiri in place of Kutlwano Letlako and Jody Shene. In the meantime, Thomas Tuchel will name his latest England squad today, and it may give him his toughest decisions as yet since taking charge. The Three Lions produced their best display by some distance under his leadership when they beat Serbia 5-0 away from home in Belgrade last time out. Now, Tuchel had said that he was once convinced that his side were moving in the right direction, and he was proven right in that impressive performance. However, right now, with injury issues and stars returning to fitness, the German has to make some big calls. Let's end things off with some golf news. South Korean Hwang Yung-min fired a career best of 10 under par 62 to surge into a 3-stroke lead today after 36 holes in the LPGA Lot Championship in Hawaii. Hwang, who's a 22-year-old playing on a sponsor's invitation, posted the best round in the tournament since it moved to that particular place, building a 15 under par total of 129. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Greetings, South Africa. My name is Walter Steenbok, SABC Sport football analyst. My favorite African dish, pap and mohodu. My top 3 holiday destinations will be Thailand, followed by Cape Town, and of course Zanzibar. Yeah, between a train driver and a pilot, I'll really choose to be a train driver, because I'm on the ground. It's very, very safe, and I hate heights. Between fruits and veggies, I think I like fruits, especially apples. I love to kick penalties against. Between Sipho Chine and Ronwen Williams, I'll choose Ronwen Williams because I'll put it right in the middle. I saw over the weekend.
Do not miss out on electrifying football analysis on Match Days with Walter Koyoko Steenbok. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
I don't love waking up before the sunrise. I don't love wearing a school uniform. But I do love learning. I do love saving my mom money on transport and uniforms while I still get a good education. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
Mzansi, Powerball is bringing the thrill with a jaw-dropping 110 million rand estimated jackpot this Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 110 million rand jackpot today and step closer to a world of endless possibilities. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's talk about what's happening regarding the flotilla. So first of all, an update, right? We now know that the Israeli naval forces have intercepted the global Sumud flotilla in international waters. That's important, not in Israeli waters. And there's been 40 vessels, around 40 vessels, more than 40 in fact, with 400 activists on those vessels from 44 countries, right? In the main carrying, well, not in the main, carrying humanitarian aid to challenge the Gaza blockade, right? One of the vessels, the Mikano, evaded capture and therefore entered Palestinian waters near Gaza. So that's what we know. We also know that I think there's 7 South Africans who are part of this grouping now that have been captured. One of them, of course, is Manla Mandela. So that's the one thing. In the meantime, the SABC News international reporter Khayelitsha Khumalo James was in conversation with Israel's deputy head of mission to South Africa, that's Ariel Seidman, at the back of these of the global Sumud flotilla interceptions. So we picked out a few of his thoughts from that conversation. First of all, Israel's deputy head of mission made the point that his country's military operations are aimed at Hamas, not Gaza's civilians.
Certain scenarios of armed conflict. And unfortunately, Israel is in a scenario of armed conflict since Hamas terror regime took over Gaza in 2007. I also want to remind you of the Palmer Report. After the 2010 incident of the flotilla, the UN Secretary General appointed an inquiry, a panel of inquiry, and unofficially called the Palmer Report. And they concluded that the blockade was legal and was according to international law.
So, Ariel, one of the primary reasons why these activists undertook this massive and colossal exercise was to highlight the predicament in Gaza, the starvation of the people, where we get reports that the aid is not distributed. What do you make of those statements?
So, even from your question, I mean, it is very clear that this was not an aid flotilla. There's actually a video from the Israeli police boarding the flotilla looking for the aid, and there is no aid on these ships. Furthermore, other countries, Italy, Greece, even the Vatican, suggested that they would take the aid and distribute it, and the flotilla organizers did not agree to it. They rejected the offer. And when you go back a little bit, there's also evidence of Hamas being in contact with the organizers of this flotilla. So, as you mentioned, this flotilla is not an aid flotilla. It's not a humanitarian aid flotilla. It's more of a PR stunt. And as you mentioned, it's a stunt in order to raise awareness to a situation.
Very symbolic mission also, Ariel, but also we've seen quite a number of international bodies, whether you look at the recent reports by the UN Commission, headed by Judge Navi Pillay, talking about these atrocities, but also painting a very bleak picture about the current situation in Gaza. And what's the response of the Israeli authorities?
I mean, the situation in Gaza is terrible. The people in Gaza are suffering, and there's no denying. And they are paying a very, very heavy price for this war and for what's happening. But you cannot ignore the context in where Israel is fighting a terror regime which attacked Israel, attacked civilians, and is using their own population as human shields. I mean, they are hiding behind civilians, behind children. They're setting up command centers under hospitals. They're shooting out of schools, out of mosques. And Israel finds itself in a terrible situation where they're fighting this enemy embedded in the civilian population. And Israel is doing its best to avoid harming civilians. Unfortunately, it's impossible to avoid it completely. And also, I have to say, Israel has been facilitating aid into Gaza during war. So Israel is facilitating humanitarian aid to the enemy during war. This says everything about Israel's intent, and Israel is trying to fight Hamas, not the people of Gaza. And that's a very clear distinction for us.
Okay, and he said more. We're talking about Israel's deputy head of mission, Ariel Seidman. He, and this is an important one, I'm quoting, there is no genocide in Gaza, but he described the situation instead as a war in which people suffer. This is his words.
Do we have like a time frame?
So I don't have a time frame. We've seen a few of these flotillas in the past, and they've always been taken care of very well, and been released very swiftly. So I don't think there's any cause to worry. As I said, there are photos of them, been released, they're taken care of, and they will be released within a short time.
Is there genocide unfolding in Gaza?
How do you describe genocide?
Well, I mean, you look at it's well documented. You look at these international bodies, whether it's Amnesty International, whether it's Human Rights Watch, and you look at also, the ICJ case, where we're still awaiting for the comprehensive findings. I mean, the indications are there that it's a very untenable situation.
As I said, people are suffering, and a lot of people are dying. That's war. Not in every war, when a lot of people die, that's not genocide. Genocide, you have to have intent to kill a population. And going back to what I said before, Israel is distributing aid, is facilitating aid into Gaza. There's no intent to kill people of Gaza who are not Hamas. But as said, it is a very difficult situation with a terror organization that is embedded in a civilian population. So people are getting hurt. But of course, there's no intention. And if you look now at the peace process and the peace agreement that was offered by President Trump and endorsed by the Arab and Muslim country, Israel immediately said yes. Israel wants to end this war. Israel wants to live in peace with its neighbors. Israel has signed peace treaties with its neighbors before, be it Egypt, Jordan, the Abraham Accords. So far, Hamas has been refusing to every agreement, and we are waiting for the response on this one.
What did you make of those developments at the UN General Assembly? We saw the United Kingdom, we saw France, we saw so many countries, Canada, Australia, pushing for the two-state solution, but essentially, to all intents and purposes, recognizing the right of statehood for Palestinians?
I just think that we need to make a very clear distinction between Palestinians and Hamas. This war is against Hamas. It's against Hamas terror regime. This war is not
but what
against
about the civilians who are bearing the brunt?
It's a terrible situation, as every war is. As I mentioned, Israel is not targeting civilians. Israel is doing all it can to avoid hurting the civilians, as opposed to Hamas, who is targeting the civilians, who is firing into civilians, same as the missiles that came from Iran and the missiles coming from Yemen, from the Houthis in Yemen. They're targeting Israeli civilians, whereas Israel is targeting Hamas terrorists and doing all it can to avoid harm to civilians.
Right, so there we are. Certainly the views of Israel's Deputy Head of Mission, Ariel Seidman, here in South Africa, right? Now, of course, it's very much an ongoing conversation about he said, she said, particularly around the issue of the Israel is not targeting civilians. But then the flip side of that, if you're not targeting civilians but just Hamas, how many Hamas members are there that you have to eliminate before, or rather, how many civilians do you have to kill before you eliminate Hamas? And why then have you been so unsuccessful, if that were the case? Also, that point has been effectively downed by so many observers, including Francesca Albanese, who has who's been the rapporteur from the United Nations on that issue, to say no, that's not been the case at all, right? Now, I just say that because the Nelson Mandela Foundation themselves, they've called for the immediate and unconditional release of all those detained from the flotilla, as well as the protection of humanitarian actors and safe passage for aid into Gaza in line with international law. That's the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Now, just to continue on that point, also confirmation from the Nelson Mandela Foundation that the annual Nelson Mandela Lecture will be delivered by the human rights lawyer and UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, which happens on the 25th of October, in fact, at Wits University, with the theme of enhancing peace and global enhancing peace and global cooperation, drawing on Mandela's own 2003 call for multilateral action in the face of rising conflict and inequality. Right, you can give your own comments on that conversation, certainly with the representative from Israel, but we'll take your calls as soon as we can. But there's other developments that we need to pick up on, including the Phala Phala trial. We'll talk about that next.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's talk about that Phala Phala trial. So the Phala Phala theft case is back in court, and for the first time in the trial, a state witness, and this is important, has linked one of the accused to the stolen US dollars at the farm of President Cyril Ramaphosa. So let's find out more about it with Pimani Baloyi, the SABC News reporter in Limpopo, covering that story. Pimani, thank you for joining us on the National Pulse.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to our viewers.
Thank you. I would take it that today, is it some days are far more groundbreaking than others. This would be one of them, right?
Yes.
Go. We just lost you for a second. Just repeat it. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I was saying yes, Ashraf. There was a few developments today that went further to pushing this case forward. The first one is that link that you were talking about to somebody who linked one of the accused to that money, who is a car dealership owner, who stated that accused number one, Mr. Emanuela David, actually bought his first car from him a day after the break-in and theft at Phala Phala. But over the years since then, he says Mr. Emanuela David bought a total of about 5 vehicles amounting to about 4 million rand on numerous occasions. But the second groundbreaking development, Ashraf, was the fact that a second state witness wanted to recant his initial statement that he gave to police. This is a witness whom we understand, according to the state, was going to link the accused to being in the area. He was supposed to say he transported them, but he told the court that he doesn't know anything about his written statement. He is actually an illiterate person whom police forced to sign off on a statement. So right now, court is actually hearing a trial within a trial to verify if indeed police wrote that statement for him or if he gave them the information. And the reason this is important, Ashraf, is the state's main case is built on stating that these accused paid large amounts of money in US dollars to be moved from Bela Villa to various destinations in a day after the alleged break-in and theft. So this state witness is now saying, no, I know nothing about what you say. I told you, you actually forced me to sign off on something that I know about. So the state needs to get this testimony, admitted into evidence so that there is somebody who actually says, yes, I was paid large sums of money, but also I also saw bags full of US dollars. So this witness right now is actually cross-examining the investigating officer who took his statement, and he is saying, no, you came to me with a statement and you asked me to sign it. You did not even he says his initial meeting with the police officer was always to confirm that Emanuela David was involved in this. So that's the second most, one of the three groundbreaking developments that may happened today. But the third one, Ashraf, is a development that relates to the movement towards the trial. The general manager in the farm confirmed that he, after being informed of this robbery, he informed the president. And the president told him, yes, I will contact police. Do not report this matter. I will take responsibility. And the general manager says, when police came to the farm, he did not know, because the state was very clear in how they posed the question. This is the jurisdiction of Bela Villa. Were you aware that the police officers that came to the farm were not within that jurisdiction? And he said to me, it was police officers. The president said he will inform police, and he did so. So I don't know what happened to the case, but he confirmed that the reason they never laid a charge as employees who were based at the farm is because the president told them that he would inform police, and when people came to start investigating, he never questioned which jurisdiction they were coming from, and he never followed up in terms of that case, how far it was going.
Okay, so that could be quite significant, and so you're saying it's ongoing even right now as we talk, yeah?
It is still ongoing as we talk right now, and it has been scheduled to continue for the next 3 days, on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. The state has been quite quick in going through their witnesses. I think today we actually went through 4 witnesses in addition to that trial within a trial. So last week we saw about 5 witnesses, and from what the state said at the beginning of the trial, they have about 24 witnesses lined up. So we expect that in the next 3 days next week, chances are we'll go through the entirety of the state's case. That's when the defense will then be expected to start calling their case and call witnesses to the stand to testify that they are not linked to any of this. But the other development, Ashraf, that I must state, in terms of the general manager of the farm, he, under cross-examination, he conceded that they could not have linked accused number 2, Ms. Floriana Joseph, who was a temporary worker at the farm. They could not verify if she had been on the premises of the farm in the period that the money was kept at the farm. This is from December 2020 to around February, the 10th of February 2010, when there was that break-in. So him stating that as temporary workers, they actually were not permitted to go to the main house, to go and clean the main house. They only did so if the permanent staff workers were not there. So you could not verify if there was a time where a permanent staff member was not present and she was called in, which defense says this is what they will be basing their arguments on, that they could not verify that any of the 3 accused was aware that there was, number 1, money on the farm, and number 2, that they had access to the place where the money was kept.
Okay, lots to reflect on that. Thank you for updating us, and of course, since it continues next week, we will certainly cover that story. Pimani Baloyi, SABC News reporter in Limpopo. There we are, the Phala Phala theft trial back in court. Right? Let's get to your thoughts. What does your pulse rate tell you about the biggest issues, South Africa, locally and globally?
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, we got a call from Cape Town. Marty in Cape Town. Hi, Marty.
Hi, I haven't been having my radio on because I didn't want to have interference, but I do want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
It appears that our president, Ramaphosa,
Yeah.
has called these little flotilla members hostages. Okay?
Yeah.
That is an absolute insult to call these flotilla members hostages when we in Israel have had hostages abducted. Those are hostages that don't get food for 2 years. Those are hostages. How dare Ramaphosa call these little flotilla idiots hostages?
Okay, but why would you call them little flotilla idiots?
Idiots, because it's a big show for idiots who believe in all their nonsense.
Okay, you've
Okay?
made
and
your
we have
point.
had enough of this performance. And the president is a disappointment.
Okay.
Absolute disappointment, together with the Department of International Relations and Cooperation.
All right, you've made your point, Marty, calling them idiots. I think South Africa's been on record, by the way, of being critical of the hostage taking from Hamas. I'm very clear about that, but you can dig up the quote. Thanks for that, Marty. Right, Hassan in Joburg, hello.
Hi, Ashraf. I must say, I've written, just for the record, I've done a complaint to ICASA regarding how SABC management has been handling the whole reporting around the genocide in Gaza. I also want to say that I wrote a letter earlier because this very Ariel was in the studio this afternoon, and now he gets additional airtime. What is this about the both-sidism that SABC is so stuck with? Because in many ways, there are over 60,000 people killed, and what you want to hear? Oh, yes, we want to talk about this. So many soldiers were killed and so many people were killed on October 7th. There's no moral equality on this kind of thing. There's no balance around it. When you want to have a moral balance, you should be able to put down all the studies that show there's a genocide going on and then show all the arguments of Hasbara. But to get this guy to come onto a public broadcaster to spew out lies, a lot of them are lies. He's in the Daily Maverick this morning, and he's now on every SABC channel.
Okay, so of course he was on SABC, and we've played some of the voice clips, as you've obviously heard, right? How do you suggest, in your opinion, how do you suggest that the SABC, because you're talking about the SABC specifically, news should deal with this issue, considering that there's clearly been lots of coverage around from a Palestinian perspective, but when you do get a representative from another country, from another side, does and I'm saying not me because I don't make that call, does the SABC News just ignore that? Which is not the same as saying get the person on and one can challenge the facts or as they are explained. Yeah.
Ashraf, then you must do it this way. We report a rape case. Then we say, no, we'd like to interview the rapist because he may have had a reason. This is your both-sidism. There must be a chance. There must be a time in this genocide when it's so critical. You look at Gaza before and Gaza now, right? And you try and tell me there's some moral balance that we can have with the oppressor, that Israel is a victim. Israel is not a victim here. It's the perpetrator of the genocide. And so what I'm saying to you, when you said white South Africans, the police are beating up black people, say, no, we have to get a view from Adrian Flock. He may be right. I hit the guy with a hammer because he was fighting for his rights. What kind of nonsense is that? There comes a time where this both-sidism must be cut.
Okay, you've made your point, and that is, in fact, Hassan's side of this issue, right? Let's get further comments. No, in fact, we're going to do that later on. I'm amazed. Time has just run away from me. So it's we'll get it. We'll play them after in the next maybe 15, 20 minutes again. Your comments, your WhatsApp voice clips. Jack van der Merwe, by the way, is my guest on the Fireside Chat, being a Friday. Right now, it's 4:00. Here's the news.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, security checks complete for ad hoc committee on national safety and both parents entitled to equal parental leave. For SAFM News, I am Onde Lambana and a very good afternoon. All security arrangements are in place to ensure the safety of all participants at Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee on National Safety. The committee was established to look into allegations raised by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi regarding infiltration of the criminal justice system. Mkhwanazi will be the first witness to appear before MPs next week. He is expected to be in the hot seat over 2 days. The committee received a short safety briefing from Parliament's Chief of Security, Sam Shitlabane.
We can be able to say safely we are ready to resume in terms of security arrangement with the ad hoc committee in terms of the venue itself, which is a Good Hope Chamber. It is already a secured venue. So what we're bringing is just additional security elements that would support.
There's traffic disruptions on the N1 at Yesterburg between Mokopane and Polokwane in Limpopo after a truck lost a load of bags of cement. The Transport Department says the truck lost control and overturned after a tyre burst. No injuries have been reported. Motorists travelling between Polokwane and Mokopane advised to use the R101. The late Nelson Mandela's family in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape has called for the immediate release of South Africans and other nationals, including Nelson Mandela's grandson Mandla Mandela, who were detained following the interception by Israel of the global Samud flotilla in the international waters. The incident happened on Wednesday evening. Mandla Mandela's wife, Nosekeni, says her husband was driven to help by Ubuntu.
When I said bye to him at the airport, I did not know if I was going to see him again, when or in what condition I'm going to receive him. But we are praying and we are trying to make everybody aware, and we are calling for his release, and we are calling for the release of all the captives, because they were unarmed. They had nothing more than food, water, baby supply, medication. These are a group of humanitarians that went out that said that they can no longer stand by and not take action.
Pro-Palestinian supporters in Cape Town are also demanding the release of all detainees who were part of the intercepted global Samud flotilla. Various organizations gathered outside Parliament calling on government to cut all ties with Israel. Coordinator of the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, Yusuf Chikde.
We're asking the South African government to ensure that they have access to consular services, that the boats be returned to them, that the goods that they have, to ensure the alleviation of the starvation, the hunger, and the medical treatment that they require, for that to be delivered to Gaza, to provide some sort of a relief to that. We want to break the siege on Gaza. We're asking the South African government to ensure that while our boats are taking coal to Israel, these boats that we are taking for alleviation of poverty and the genocide is being detained. So we're asking Cyril Ramaphosa, block the boats going to Israel with the coal that is fueling the genocide.
Munich Airport in Germany has been forced to close for several hours overnight after a number of drone sightings. 17 flights were cancelled, affecting nearly 3,000 passengers. Meanwhile, there are signs of fresh drone activity in Belgium. The BBC's Bethany Bell has the details.
We're just getting in media reports from Belgium saying that 15 drones were spotted near a military site of Elsenborn, which is an army training camp near the German border. Now, those media reports say the authorities are investigating that incident. The drones are believed to have flown over the Belgian military site and then gone back into Germany.
Recapping the top story, all security arrangements are in place to ensure the safety of all participants at Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee on National Safety. I am Onde Lambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Box Eye back-to-back Southern Crowns. Hugo Bruce hails PSL coaches for trust in youngsters. And Djokovic fights past Cilic in Shanghai opener. More details at 3:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
EFC is live this Thursday.
the man of the people, Billy Wisstason,
If you're inside here and you give up, then you're not supposed to be inside here.
steps up to challenge the Zambian champion, Ken Sekeletu, for his interim EFC featherweight title.
This is the moment I've been waiting for. This is the moment I've been training for. And this is the moment why I came to South Africa.
EFC 128, live from the world's sports betting arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
So you thought you were building a business? In this economy? Good luck. But day by day, somehow it grew. You became payroll, procurement, PR, and pressure valve. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. What's that saying again? What doesn't kill your business makes it stronger? Or at least it should be that. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria, busy conditions reported at Pumalani Toll Plaza, and the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Kiluli's interchange. In KZN, the N3 eastbound as queuing towards Key Ridge, and on the N3 westbound, a stationary truck reported also at Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Milner Road, and Albert Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So every day I ask the question, what moves the National Pulse today? It's really two things. The issue of Brown Mokgotsi and the ANC's statement and what you make of that, saying that he's not a member of the ANC. That means he was, but not a member now. And the other, the issue of the flotilla and reaction around that issue too. So, yeah, we'll take more of your calls after 4:30. Keep them coming anyway. But let's pick up another important issue. The National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union, that's NEHAWU, right? They convened a provincial day of action today. This is NEHAWU from Gauteng, right? Convened a provincial day of action today directed to the Department of Health to deliver a memorandum of demands to the MEC of Health. Well, why? In relation to the crisis currently engulfing health in the province. So what's the memo? What is the extent of the crisis from their perspective? Mzi Kazi Nchonchi is the NEHAWU Gauteng Provincial Secretary. Thank you for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Right. Explain firstly, we'll talk about the memo in a second, but firstly explain for you, what is the level of your disgruntlement about so many things that are, according to you, going wrong with regard to healthcare in the province?
As NEHAWU, we are very, very concerned about the state of affairs in the Gauteng province. And chief among them is the corruption that we are observing that is happening, as shown by the SIU report about Tembisa Hospital. And the purpose of today's march was to urge the MEC of Health to take decisive and immediate action to make sure that everybody that is implicated in this is brought to book and subjected to necessary processes. And further, one of the issues for us is the fact that we are observing a lot of maladministration. We are seeing hospitals and clinics having dilapidated infrastructure while people are siphoning the funds that are supposed to be dedicated to fixing these problems. We therefore thought it is important that as NEHAWU, and we have brought this to the attention of the department before, that as NEHAWU we want these things to change. Compounding the problem is the fact that the department has not been employing has not been employing nurses and doctors and other critical staff that is needed for the department. As a result, we had to call for the department to fill the vacant positions, because all they are saying is that they don't have money to fill these vacancies. To make it worse now, in order to correct this, they are offering nurses and other staff members 6 months contract, which we regard as exploitation. And it is actually not dealing with the problem that is confronting the healthcare system in Gauteng presently.
When you say 6 months, I mean, is it not a case of they offering 6 months because they can't afford to commit to more? Because, as you quite rightly have said, and I think the National Minister of Health has made the point even before, that he's been critical of the fact that he's had no budget to be able to employ more healthcare workers.
Yes, we do know that this problem is partly national in nature, but in Gauteng, we don't understand why they are doing what they are doing. For instance, we are told by the department that they have now lifted the moratorium, but they are phasing this thing in over a period of time. And that's why they are saying they are giving these workers 6 month contracts, which will be subject to a review after 6 months. And from where we are standing, the healthcare system in Gauteng needs a fully fledged staff complement, in particular in critical areas like nursing, cleaning services, doctors, you name it. And we believe that it's serious disservice to the citizens of Gauteng to continue on this path. Workers are burnt out because they are overworked. And these are things that we think that the department needs to deal with as a matter of urgency.
Okay, so let's just confirm that your memo that you sent, just give me some key bullet points of your demands.
Our memo is talking about corruption that needs to be dealt with in the department with decisive action. We're talking about infrastructure that is dilapidated. We're saying the department must fill vacant funded posts. We're saying the department must actually in-source services that they are outsourcing, like security and cleaning services to a certain extent. And we're demanding that the department must also reinstate workers that have been unfairly dismissed within the department in Gauteng. So in a nutshell, that is what our memorandum is all about. But we're also highlighting issues of occupational health and safety, because the issue of dilapidated buildings is impacting on workers as well as patients and indeed the community that we're serving. So in a nutshell, that's what's contained in our memorandum.
Okay, got that. Appreciate your time, and we're bound to get a reaction as well. Certainly maybe not from the health department today, but maybe some other time, but it doesn't stop anybody else calling in on that issue. So thank you for your time. That's Imzi Kayize Chonchi, the Nehawu Gauteng Provincial Secretary. Right, now we're going to talk about another issue. You heard it on the news, a significant ConCourt judgment on parents. We'll talk about that next.
The SABC News Portal is your one-stop digital platform for all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest and breaking stories. Listen to all SABC radio stations live, including podcasts, and also watch the SABC News channel with clips and live streams of all the big news events. Simply download the SABC News app on your smartphone from the Play or App Store. SABC News, independent and impartial. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, it's been a busy time regarding with ConCourt in particular. You may have heard it on the news, the ConCourt or Constitutional Court delivering a judgment on whether fathers may get the same number of days off for paternity leave as mothers. So in 2023, the Gauteng High Court found that the existing laws unfairly discriminated against fathers by granting different leave entitlements. So here's the Apex Court judgment.
Is granted leave to appeal against the High Court's decision not to declare as invalid and inconsistent with the Constitution the age limit of 2 years in respect of Section 25 capital B 1 of the BCEA and Section 27 1C of the UIF Act. 2. The declaration made by the High Court that Section 25 capital A, 25 capital B, and 25 capital C of the BCE Act dealing with maternity and parental leave together with the corresponding sections 24, 26 capital A, 27 and 29 capital A of the UIF Act are invalid and inconsistent with the Constitution to the extent that they unfairly discriminate between different classes of parents as to the length of parental leave available to parents and as to the unemployment benefits to which they are entitled and the periods for which unemployment benefits are paid is confirmed. 3. It is declared that Section 25 capital B1 of the BCEA and Section 27 1C of the UIF Act are invalid and inconsistent with the Constitution to the extent that they limit parental leave and related leaves and related benefits to the case where the adopted child is below the age of 2 years. The declarations of constitutional invalidity referred to in paragraphs 2 and 3 are suspended for a period of 36 months from the date of this order to afford Parliament an opportunity to remedy the constitutional defects giving rise to the constitutional invalidity. 5. Pending the coming into force of any remedial legislation as contemplated in paragraph 4, the impugned provisions of the BCEA shall contain a reading in which has the following effect.
Okay, that's one. Then the Court spoke about or ruled on the issue of the MK Party, and they dismissed the MK Party and its leader, Jacob Zuma's urgent application challenging President Ramaphosa's challenging Ramaphosa in the first case. The Justice Ramaka Stephen Matopo handed down reasons for its ruling against the MK Party and Zuma. Just listen to this.
The Constitutional Court has considered the application for exclusive and direct access. It has concluded that the application does not engage this court's exclusive jurisdiction and no case for direct access has been made out. And it made the following order. 1, direct access is refused. 2, costs are reserved. 3, reasons for this order shall be given at a later stage. These are the reasons. In a unanimous judgment penned by myself, this court finds that the threshold for determination is whether this court has exclusive jurisdiction to entertain the applicant's challenge, and if not, whether direct access should be granted. This required the court to examine what the applicants have pleaded in their founding papers. It is well established that jurisdiction is determined on the basis of the pleadings and not on the substantive merits of the case. What emerges from a careful reading of the founding papers is a case that challenges the lawfulness of specific decision that the President has made. What is notably absent, however, is anything more than a broad allegation that the President has failed to comply with specific constitutional obligations. The founding affidavit is scant and devoid of material evidence to sustain a claim of this court's exclusive jurisdiction. The Constitution distinguishes disputes related to the conduct of the President from those where he has failed to fulfill a constitutional obligation.
Okay, there we are. So you've got those two significant rulings, right? It leaves us time now to take your calls, because after 5 we chat to Jack van der Merwe, the CEO, the founder, the lead really in the implementation of the Gautrain. I'm just wondering whether someone like Imbazima Shalowa will actually call in. You never know, right? But these things happen. In the fireside chat coming up 5 to 6. Your calls coming up next.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, to Humansdorp we go first. From Zile, hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm very well. I trust you are good. And what's your point?
Ashraf, I'm not sure what criteria are you using to invite political analysts onto your program. But at times I find it very strange. Your political analysts, to me, are not sort of objective, especially when they come to analyze issues relating to the ANC. To me, they are more subjective, and they end up being politicians more than being analysts.
Give me examples. Give me an example of what you're talking about.
I was listening to Professor Andre Duvenage, and to me, he's more sort of lambasting on the ANC as the organization instead of lambasting on individuals within the ANC. Remember, I always say the ANC is a brand, and if an individual does wrong in the ANC, we must be able to separate that individual from the ANC, because he does wrong things as an individual, not authorized by the organization.
But where the difference comes in is that, you separate the two, the individual from, say, an organization, unless the organization still retains the interest of that person and vice versa. That means, if that person is still seen in a circle, then you include them in the conversation.
But in this case, the ANC is distancing itself from anyone who does wrong, claiming to be doing that in the name of the organization. Now, for me, a political analyst must come on the program having well researched on issues, right? That is the first point. And when it comes, and I've been observing this for a while, when it comes to the DA, you will find them romanticizing their views around anything that has to do. For instance, there's a viral video moving around about wrongs and corruption that is committed in the Western Cape. You don't hear any political analyst coming on air, even your unqualified political analyst, Mike from Newland. You will never hear Mike saying anything. But the point is, for me, I find it very perturbing and sort of annoying in a way that your political analysts will come and lambast on the ANC as if they've got a program to wage a total onslaught on the ANC.
Okay.
They are threatened by the existence
All right.
of the ANC.
I think you've made your point. Let me answer on the one point. Listen, first of all, we get a whole range of spectrum of analysts. And yes, I think some of them are very clear in terms of how they see it. They don't always just, sit on the fence. But maybe you don't want them to sit on the fence. You want them to express themselves the way they see it. So we get a range, as you can see, in a typical week, not on one day, number one. Number two, I'd like to take credit for saying that I appoint every single guest on the show. No, it doesn't work like that. There's a production team that consults with me, but ultimately the production team makes that call, and it's important to know that. That means it's never just one person who says, "Oh, that's what I'm going to do," and it certainly is never just the right of the host. It just does not work like that. Let me repeat what I often say: the host is the captain of the team, but the producers are the coaches. If you got that, you'll understand it. From Zila, thank you for that. Right, we use in Cape Town, Parktown North, in fact, unless you move to Cape Town. Hello.
Ashraf.
Yeah.
Ashraf, I'm also going to speak on these political analysts.
Yeah.
Because I do interact with a lot of them, because I'm also a scholar on my own.
Yeah.
Some have actually admitted that they're actually under surveillance. They're captured because they are Western, these Christian prophets that prophesy the coming of their King Jesus here and there and all these things. Because this guy, he's talking about the ANC, like the previous caller said. There's nothing else that they come here and talk about. They talk about the African National Congress.
No, but we asked him to talk about that. I mean, we didn't ask him to talk about anything else. We asked him about the ANC.
Listen, why? Why is the ANC butchered every day? Yet so many people survive.
Do you know how many people who are not analysts, who are callers, who call in on the show that are critical of the ANC? I mean, it's not exclusively of one person.
But for a professional person to come and talk things that are not there.
So what should he say?
Let me tell you, there are so many white people. If this system was fair, that can be found guilty of buying votes from the African people, infiltrating political parties, even the ANC. They go at night with money, business people who are white, and they need to be exposed.
So are you a member? I mean, are you a member of the ANC yourself?
Yes, I am.
All right.
So qualified.
Okay. So when
I even grew up in Esai.
I know you've made that point before, but now so here's the point. So, in a case like the analyst that we've had, now you can agree and disagree that his analysis was spot on or was off the mark. Okay, that's your prerogative. We of course get a range, but in a case like this, we specifically we enlist the analyst to comment on the relationship between the ANC statement and Brown Mokhotsi. We didn't ask him about any other issue, not the GNU, not Palestine, Israel, not what's happening with Nehal. We said, can you comment on the ANC issue? So why is he only talking about the ANC? Because that's what we asked him to talk about.
No,
hey?
They're not members. They're not members of the ANC. They depend on gossip on the corridors, street and restaurant and bookshop.
So you're saying only members of the ANC must talk about the ANC?
No, I'm not saying that. But they must take the truth. Finish and clear.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay, you've made your point for Yizwa. Thank you for that. There's more to come. Let's pick up on. In fact, there's another one in a similar vein.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, SAFM listeners. You know, I'm always surprised or amazed by how these ANC people attack the political analysts when they talk about the ANC. The ANC's president himself, has acknowledged that the DA is doing better in the municipalities than the ANC. So when somebody comes in and say that people, when they go to the DA, they are romanticizing, I don't understand that. The ANC president has acknowledged, and the ANC people are corrupt. It's a fact, it's given. There's nothing we can change about that. They are corrupt today to the core.
Okay. I can't say all ANC people. You can say some members of the ANC may well be corrupt, and that could apply to other parties too, by the way. But your point is valid that, yes, I mean, the president has been critical of his own party and saying, go and learn from the other people. I mean, he's said that. And many callers on the show, supporters of the ANC, are critical of the ANC.
Good day, Ashraf. Grant here. Just thing with Israel and Palestine. Israel accepted the peace deal. It's Hamas who's delaying the whole peace deal or rejecting it, or didn't come up with an answer, or they're accepting. So it means they still want to continue with the war. Tango!
Okay, it's interesting how many people jump onto that. Listen, I'm not a member of any party, or even not even Hamas, I don't even know. But the point is, there's been counter arguments to that in terms of how many these types of so-called agreements are not quite agreements, and often it's the Israelis who've actually backed out of it. But here's the little bit that I know. Why would Hamas agree to a peace deal that actually expels them? I mean, seriously, like, why would they do that?
Hello, Mr. Karada. Hope you're well. I've never heard this discussed on the media. If Israel says they want to get rid of Hamas before they stop the war, how do they know that they didn't bomb the kidnapped people that they are so-called trying to rescue? What if they bombed them in one of the... So if they keep on bombing, how do they know where the hostages are? How do they know? Do they know where the hostages are?
You mean, how do they not?
What if they bombed them?
You mean, how do they not know? If they're bombing so many, an entire region that like 60,000 people dead, and they still can't get to their goals, it does puzzle you, don't you think so? 4:30 is the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Auditor General has issued a second consecutive unqualified audit opinion for the SABC for the year ended 31st March 2025. The positive audit opinion is noted as a demonstration of public broadcasters' commitment to transparency, governance and stricter financial management controls. The paternal grandmother of a 4-year-old boy who was allegedly instructed to smoke what is believed to be drugs in nuclear Johannesburg says she has forgiven his mother. And the UN says thousands of Palestinian children, many with disabilities, remain in Gaza City as the Israeli military continues its offensive. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Rose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Woodmead has heavy traffic reported towards Buccleuch interchange. The N1 southbound in Randburg, queuing towards Malibongwe Drive, and the R101 in Pretoria has delays at Bonaccord. In KZN, a stationary vehicle on the N2 north beyond the ramp from Chernik Novio Highway, and a stationary vehicle on the N3 south beyond the ramp of Cliffdale interchange. In Cape Town, the R304 northbound in Stellenbosch, slow moving towards Port Ray Road. The N1 outbound has a stationary truck at Platcliffe Hill, and in Baden-Powell Drive, there's sand reported on the carriageway at Monwabisi, so please proceed with caution. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, it's a day ahead of the Springboks in action, right?
Absolutely, and the Springboks are firm favourites to wrap up a second straight rugby championship title for the first time when they face Argentina at Twickenham tomorrow. Now, this year's tournament has been one of the most exciting and unpredictable since Los Pumas joined the Boks, All Blacks and Wallabies in the Southern Hemisphere competition in 2012. The Springboks topped the table by a single point heading into the 6th and final round of the matches this weekend, and a bonus point victory against the Pumas in London would definitely guarantee the world champions the title regardless of the result in Perth between Australia and New Zealand earlier on Saturday. Now, the All Blacks can still emerge victorious if results go their way, though South Africa have a huge points different advantage and Australia are ranked outsiders. Talking about Australia, well, Captain Harry Wilson says that Australia needs to send off James Slipper with a performance to be proud of in their must-win rugby championship test against New Zealand. Slippers, who is the Wallabies' most capped player, will play his 151st and final test, ensuring that there will be plenty of emotions tomorrow in that sold out Perth Stadium. 60,000 fans expected to come through. So Australia are aiming to rebound from a 32-24 defeat to the All Blacks last weekend, ending their hopes of regaining the Bledisloe Cup. They still have a slim chance of winning the first rugby championship title in a decade, but they must beat New Zealand with a bonus point and hope that Argentina upsets South Africa in London. In football, Bafana coach Hugo Bruce has praised his PSL counterparts for continuing to put their faith in young players, saying that it has made his task of lowering the national team's average age far easier. The Belgian mentor has consistently rewarded youngsters with international recognition, handing opportunities to the likes of Relebogile Mofokeng, Mahangota and Khulumani Ndamani in recent years. And just yesterday, he actually extended that list by naming Mamelodi Sundowns defender Malibongwe Khoza in his 23-man squad for the upcoming FIFA World Cup qualifiers. And Bruce emphasized that the door remains wide open for players who earn regular game time at club level and perform consistently.
It is important that those players are getting chances in their club. And that was not the fact when I came here 4 years ago. They were all players of 26, 27 and older. You never found somewhere a player of 21, 22 years old. When you talked about it, they said, yeah, but they don't have experience. Yeah, how can a young player have experience when he don't play? And I think I can say that maybe it's a little bit because of me, that also in the clubs, coaches started to put younger players. And you see now in every team, you find young players. And this is what it has to be. They give them the chance, and okay, if they can make it, they can make it, because they don't have enough quality. But if you see all those young players who are coming now in the national team, that is because they got the confidence of the coach, the confidence of the club. They give them chances.
Well, elsewhere, Arsenal can take over at the top of the Premier League tomorrow, even if Liverpool end a rare losing run at injury-hit Chelsea. Beaten 2-1 by undefeated Crystal Palace in the league last weekend, Liverpool went down 1-0 at Galatasaray in the Champions League on Tuesday, when they also lost goalkeeper Alisson to injury. So they will definitely be determined to avoid a rare run of 3 successive losses in England and Europe, while Chelsea, on the other hand, have similar problems. The West Londoners are at a risk of a 3rd successive league defeat, but at least they got back to winning ways in Europe with a 1-0 Champions League win over Benfica on Tuesday. In the meantime, Real Madrid host Villarreal tomorrow, aiming to get their La Liga campaign back on track. This is after a punishing derby defeat last weekend. Xavi Alonso's side's perfect start to the campaign came to a halt with a 5-2 beating by rivals Atletico Madrid, and the coach says he was keen to move on after admitting his team deserved to lose, but the Madrid players have been ruminating on that one. Then in motorsport, Oscar Piastri clocked the fastest in the second practice for the Singapore Grand Prix. Piastri finished in 1 minute 30.714 seconds, with Isaac Hadjar finishing second and Max Verstappen third, trailing 0.132 and 0.143 seconds respectively. Finally, in tennis, Novak Djokovic is through to the 3rd round of the Shanghai Masters after beating Marin Cilic 7-6 and 6-4. Djokovic is aiming for a record-extending 5th title in Shanghai. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
We have different languages and cultures, but what we have in common is that we all want a dignified funeral and for our loved ones not to worry about money when the time comes. Trust Clientele to provide you with affordable funeral cover that will pay out within 24 hours. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's SAFM to 48031. SMS now. Clientele Life is a licensed life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates, terms and conditions apply.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuyCars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuyCars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Mzansi, Powerball is bringing the thrill with a jaw-dropping 110 million rand estimated jackpot this Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 110 million rand jackpot today and step closer to a world of endless possibilities. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
With all those numbers, we have Paswani and Patlele from Markway Fund Managers. You've got the news, local and global. Paswani, go for it.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and happy Friday to everyone. Well, yeah, it's Friday, it's been quieter, but we got some data. South Africa business activity kept above the 50 level in expansion, showing that there is a growth, but not a robust growth, as the recovery in South Africa is still fragile when coming to business activity, supported by our local demand that is still positive, helping set off the global weaknesses we're seeing when you think of the US, Europe, amongst other countries. Also, we recorded a cost relief from that front, but business confidence is still at low, suggesting that our expansion is teething towards weakness. Globally, the US is still in a shutdown, limiting data availability, as we've seen the labor was postponed. And with the shutdown, Trump has taken the opportunity to cut down some stuff, and therefore we're talking about the likes of using the arm of Doge. Yields are low, dollar is breaking down, holding lows too. Gold is remaining shining in this environment, up 0.6 at $3,879 an ounce, thanks to those rate cuts expectations and geopolitical tensions Trump came out saying that, hey, if Hamas does not accept the peace deal by Sunday, we might see things going differently. Oil is bearish on increased supplies, flat at $64.30 a barrel. Bitcoin is back bullish at $120 per one Bitcoin. US equities are enjoying the AI boom. We see S&P is up 0.4, Dow is up 0.8. In Europe, we're seeing the FTSE up 0.5, DAX is down 0.2. Locally, we continue to enjoy gains up 1.4%, supported by all sectors across the board. Financials leading it up 1.7, resources 1.3. Industrials 1.2. The rand doing well, of course, 17.23. Rand against the euro 20.24. Rand against the pound 23.20.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that, Paswani. Have a good weekend. We shall connect with you and the team on Monday.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So, Paswani referenced Donald Trump. He's posted on his own platform about Israel and Hamas. Let me read it. This is today. Hamas has let me say it again. Hamas has been a ruthless and violent threat for many years in the Middle East. They have killed and made lives unbearably miserable, culminating with the October 7th massacre in Israel. Babies, women, children, old people, and many young men and women, boys and girls, getting ready to celebrate their future lives together. As a retribution for the October 7th attack on civilization, more than 25,000 Hamas soldiers have already been killed. And soldiers in inverted commas. Most of the rest are surrounded and militarily trapped, just waiting for me to give the word go for their lives to be quickly extinguished. As for the rest, we know where and who you are, and you will be hunted down and killed. I am asking that all innocent Palestinians immediately leave this area of potentially great future death for safety parts of Gaza. Everyone will be well cared for by those that are waiting to help. Fortunately for Hamas, however, they will be given one last chance. Great, powerful, and very rich nations of the Middle East and the surrounding areas beyond, together with the United States of America, have agreed with Israel signing on to peace after 3,000 years in the Middle East. This deal also spares the lives of all remaining Hamas fighters. The details of the document are known to the world, and it is a great one for all. We will have peace in the Middle East one way or the other. The violence and bloodshed will stop. Releases the hostages, all of them. I think it says release the hostages, all of them now, including the bodies of those that are dead now. An agreement must be reached with Hamas by Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Washington time. Every country has signed on. It is if this last chance agreement is not reached, all hell, like no one has ever seen before, will break out against Hamas. There will be peace in the Middle East one way or the other. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. Okay, let's get to some of the voice notes, and there are many on the issues we've been talking about. Let me just run through them. That's from Trump. Yeah, man. It's a whole essay, but just think about the things that he has been saying.
Yeah, Ashraf, I'm just commenting on that. One gentleman, I do believe is probably a mass supporter, is that we do need different people to come and tell us whether what is happening in Israel or what's happening in Palestine. It's not only one party. You must not point fingers and say that the Israelites are genocidal and so on, but we do not know what actually happened there. 7th of October, it never just come out from nowhere. It came out from Hamas, the attacks. So they know what's happening, so you mustn't be biased and you must just listen. Thank you.
Okay, but why would you think he's biased and why would you automatically assume he's a Hamas supporter? Just keeping in mind there are different facets that make up Palestinian society. And yes, I think South Africa, let's start with South Africa, have been critical of the kidnappings and the loss of life of approximately 1,000 people. South Africa has done that, including the president. including Naledi Pandor when she was still the Minister of International Relations. That's been the official South African position. However, and there's a big however, if you look at the South African example, the problems of that region did not start on October 7th. There are so many factors you have to consider and go and reflect back in terms of the root issues. And we can draw on those examples in South Africa because we've lived at those examples. So it's not just one thing. We need to be clear about that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners of the show. Ashraf, remember Sendra Mchunu protected Ramaphosa on the issue of Para regarding the matter to IPAD as top secret. Then what makes us think as South Africans that Ramaphosa will fire the person who protect him on Para farm? Brian Mabai Prochakland. Thanks for the great show.
Much appreciated. Appreciate you calling in. And again, we're getting this wide cross-section of opinions that inevitably come. I'll tell you what, just by the way, someone asked the question, what's happened to the national dialogue? Like, what's happened to it? Now, I'm not suggesting nothing's happened. We're just saying, do you find that it's a bit off the radar since that inquiry that kicked off a couple of weeks ago? It's just been, where is this national dialogue?
Hello, Ashraf. It's a shame that after all the ANC has done to us as South Africans, there's some people who are still confidently coming to defend the ANC. I don't understand where are they living. After all the ANC has done, after all that you've been through under the ANC, someone can still come and stand on radio and talk in defense or in support of the ANC. Wow, I didn't know it still have such people after all these things we've been through in the hands of the ANC, the leaders that do not care about their citizens.
Well, look, your point is an interesting one. The fact is there are problems with so many different political parties in our country. I mean, we were talking about it even yesterday. There's just a lack of outstanding leadership that shines through. But so one can be critical of many parties, praising some aspects of the party and being critical of the other. One can praise the ANC as well for maybe the need. They've delivered freedom to us and they've also tried to reinvent themselves, but one can be critical of the so many people involved in or implicated in some form of corruption by their own admission. And number two, their lack of service delivery. Now, unlike other parties, you can talk to the ANC about service delivery because they have been effectively the one party that's had the biggest influence in the governing of South Africa all these years. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and there are people who support them, and some of them are blindingly so, but others are very critical.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAF. ANC is running the government, so we talk the way we want, and if ANC run the government, that means all eyes are on it. So people, they must just chill, they must just relax. If they are tired of running the government, they can just excuse and give the other political party that you're going to talk about it. It's David here in Klerksdorp. So you must tell that mama must just chill, and that Nkati. Thank you.
I don't think I need to tell that person. I think you've just told her, because people call in and they also listen to the show. They absolutely do, right?
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, I am praying for a day where we fairly and honestly deliberate on issues without attaching color. This thing is not taking us anywhere, and there's nothing wrong to complain about a political party that is in power because it has promised people it is not delivering. So please, South Africans, can we be firm and honest in our deliberations and put color aside? It's not taking us anywhere. Even when we see the truth, we want to hide behind color. No, guys, please.
Well, listen, I'm in agreement with you. I think one must look at two things. You have to factor in the issue of South Africa's color issues as a major factor in where we are as a country today and the needs for transformation. That's the one part. Absolutely on side with that. On the other hand, we can't also be obsessed that every single conversation we have must default into color. Let's take me, if I'm black, I'm good. If I'm white, I'm not good. That type of thing, or vice versa. And every conversation that we have, even like the judgment from regarding Julius Malema, and you heard that conversation yesterday. Please listen to it. It's up as a podcast, where the EFF are very clear that the number one reason Malema has been found guilty and convicted is that because of racism, because they've been out to get him, because people, the judiciary, are taken and they're all racist. Yeah. We'll pick up on more thoughts from you after this.
You could spend 10 minutes waiting for that video to download. Or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. Like 48-year-old Felicity, who now pays a low 836 Rand a month for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson. With Outsurance, you get the legendary Out bonus that pays you a percentage of your premiums back if you're claim-free. SMS out to 30754. Make today the day you switch and get more out. After switching, 31-year-old Palisa now pays only 926 Rand a month for her 2024 Kia Sonet. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? Get a quote today. And if Outsurance can't beat what you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
I don't love school. I don't love trying to learn like everyone else learns and falling behind when I don't understand. But I do love learning. I do love working to my own schedule and getting the support when I need extra help. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
All right, there's more to come from you, right? And here's another about Fikile Balula.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Myself as an ANC voter so far, I think Fikile is right. There's nothing they can do about Brian if he's not a member. And unfortunately, even at the commission, there is no evidence of him communicating with Mkuno. There is no such so far, unless I still need some education. But listening to the evidence provided, there is no such that link him, apart from those screenshots from Brian's phone. And there's nothing else. So we'll just wait. And if things remain as they are, then I'll still vote for them. Bye.
Okay. I mean, look, there's a lot of referendum about the ANC, just like whether you should vote for them or not. So you think they should not, they've done what they can do up to now. What about Israel?
Ashraf, good afternoon. This is Tabitha Bloemfontein. Shocking to hear the response of this deputy mission from Israel. How can you say you are doing anything possible to avoid killing innocent people while almost 60,000 Palestinians have been killed? In those cases, you'll find innocent children that were shot by snipers, Israel snipers. How can you say there's no genocide?
And I mean, you know, the ICJ certainly found a plausible case for genocide. There's been others, Amnesty. I mean, I can go on. United Nations, the latest one. There's been one after the other, and somehow they appear blinded to all of that. So I take your point. And if we need to know what, like, and look at what the people with strong human rights policies and implementation feel about that issue.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Tabitha Bloemfontein. How is part of the problem here? Go and check the membership of those that are implicated, those officials that are implicated in the Tembisa hospital scandals. I can bet my last, and you found that some of them are NEHAU members. You can't touch them, those employees. They do as they please. They know that they are protected by NEHAU.
All right, they are the problem, or in fact part of the problem. I hear. So what about this?
Good day, as if now look, the issue whether Brian Mokgotsi is a member of the ANC or not. Here the point is his association. He is highly linked and associated with the ANC, especially its leadership. Remember, Brian Mokgotsi was the one who organized and ran the CR17, which is sealed by the courts. Which is a wonder again, why a man who claims to be a clean man, a rule of law man, can seal something that is of public interest. Because through that fund, Cyril got into the ANC leadership. So we need to know, we must scrutinize it. Brian Mokgotsi is a syndicate that is within the leadership of the ANC, a mafia organization for that matter.
Okay, there we are. Now, the other day we touched on it about a few weeks back about the imminent coming together of Rise Mzansi, the Good Party, and Build One South Africa to form one, centrist party. That didn't happen a few weeks ago. I think the reason was there to, effectively decide what the leadership formation would be. We still don't know, but I see IOL have now put out a piece saying they can now confirm that that party will officially merge this weekend. So we'll see. If it is, we've got lots of news to talk about on the Monday, I can assure you of that, isn't it?
Hi, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. We've got one issue in South Africa when it comes to these political parties and media houses. If you look at it, corruption under DA, like we are hearing of 1.6 billion of corruption. You don't hear them. Why don't we hear it? Also, a lot of follow-ups, even lingering around the media, these media platforms. But if it's ANC, media is all out to kill black organizations.
Okay, you say what when you say media is out to kill all black organizations? That's exactly the point that was brought up earlier on. Like, I mean, do you really think the media's got that much power? And then which position they take? So what about self-destruction? Sometimes those that kill off parties are the parties themselves by their lack of service delivery. I mean, why do you think that the ANC got 40% in the last election? Is it because of the media? If they delivered and did their job, people would vote for them anyway. Why do you think, for example, the EFF were unable to grow from where they were? Never mind the ANC dropped, and the DAM themselves also did not grow significantly in that last election. Why do you think? A lot of it has got to do with how the parties deliver when they are in positions of decision making and how they communicate their messaging. And if you and I don't buy into that, then we just don't vote for them, do we? Isn't it? That's how it goes.
Good afternoon, SAFM listeners. I just want to pass this message. Operation Dudula, they block foreigners from getting medical assistance from South African hospital, but they are failing to block Tenderpreneur stealing 2 billion from one hospital. So who's worse, a foreigner and a thief? Who's a South African who steal 2 billion from the hospital? I'm just asking if someone can answer me.
Well, as you said, you've just asked, or you're asking. Let's see who answers it.
Hi, Ashraf. I just feel Brian Mokgotsi was a member of the ANC while during the commission of all his criminal activities. And I think it's just deflection or just splitting hairs by saying that he's no longer an ANC member. And anyway, when does a membership of these parties terminate? There's never speak about renewals, etc. So it's quite a convenient statement by Mbalula, who should not really be taken so seriously anyway.
Okay, you should not be taking it seriously anyway. I wonder. Well, something's fishy.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. This is Floris from the beautiful Winelands. There's something definitely fishy there. General Kumalu, falling ill. Advocate Matau resigning, and Nathi Umthetho was dead just shortly after he has been implicated. Yeah, but that's my own personal opinion.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Well, it is your own personal opinion. Let's, what's that phrase? Connect the dots. I don't know when else I heard that. But let me pause for that now, because now we're going to move on to other issues. You know, on a Friday, we have the Friday Fireside Chat, and we're going to speak to the person who was the project leader, the head of the Gautrain. Former CEO Jack van der Merwe is my guest on the Friday Fireside Chat. Let me invite you. Do join us, okay? Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. An unqualified audit opinion for the SABC and concern over Palestinian children remaining in Gaza City. Good day to you. The Auditor General's issued a second consecutive unqualified audit opinion for the SABC for the year ended 31st of March this year. The positive audit opinion is noted as a demonstration of the public broadcaster's commitment to transparency, governance and stricter financial management controls. In its latest financial reports for the year ended March 2025, the SABC reported a net loss of 253 million rand, up from 197 million rand in 2024. The corporation faced a tough operating environment characterized by low economic growth and a constrained government fiscus, among other challenges. Revenue grew by 1.3% but remains constrained by limited investment. The acting SABC Chief Financial Officer, Tendai Matori.
In the 2025 financial year, the SABC managed to contain its losses to 253 million, slightly higher than last year. Expenditure growth of 3% outpaced total revenue growth of 1.3%, putting pressure on our operating margins. However, there are key positives to take note. Radio revenues increased by 7%. TV license collections grew by 10%, and the SABC began commercializing its digital platform, the SABC Plus. Importantly, the SABC maintained an unqualified audit opinion and strengthened its balance sheet.
All security arrangements are in place to ensure the safety of all participants at Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee on National Safety. The committee was established to look into allegations raised by the KZN Police Commissioner regarding infiltration of the criminal justice system. He'll be the first witness to appear before MPs next week. He's expected to be in the hot seat over 2 days. The committee received a short safety briefing from Parliament's Chief of Security, Sam Shitlabane.
We can be able to say safely we are ready to resume in terms of security arrangement with the ad hoc committee. In terms of the venue itself, which is a Good Hope Chamber, it is already a secured venue. So what we're bringing is just additional security, elements that would support.
The maternal grandmother of a 4-year-old boy who was allegedly instructed to smoke what is believed to be drugs and nuclear in Johannesburg says she's forgiven his mother. The mother of the toddler and 3 others appeared in the Johannesburg Regional Court and their case was postponed for further investigation. The 4 have been in custody after a video of them allegedly encouraging the young boy to smoke went viral on social media. The grandmother spoke outside court.
We all forgiven her. We can't keep her, we can't treat her like a dog. You understand? Because everybody do things wrong. People must forgive her. That's what I think for what she did.
There's traffic disruptions on the N1 between Mokopane and Polokwane in Limpopo after a truck lost a load of bags of cement. The Provincial Transport Department says the truck lost control and overturned after a tyre burst. No injuries have been reported. Motorists travelling between Polokwane and Mokopane are advised to use the R101. The UN says thousands of Palestinian children remain in Gaza City as the Israeli military continues its offensive. A spokesperson for the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, has criticized Israel's suggestion that anyone remaining in the city would be considered an enemy. Meanwhile, a strike is being held in Italy in solidarity with the Gaza aid flotilla that was intercepted by Israel on Wednesday. The BBC's Sarah Rainsford has more.
This general strike is not about wages or workers' rights, but Gaza. The strike was called by Italy's main trade union, and it's the latest in a growing wave of protest action that intensified when the Israeli military stopped an international flotilla from delivering aid to Gaza this week. People in the crowd here have told me that they are angry at their government that it doesn't condemn Israel's actions in Gaza, and they want Italy to recognise Palestinian statehood. That's something Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister, has resisted, unlike other European leaders.
The top story, the Auditor General's issued a second consecutive unqualified audit opinion for the SABC for the year ended 31st of March this year. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Gous.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Proteas woman captain confident that South Africa will bounce back. Box set for Argentina clash, and Carling knockout takes centre stage this weekend. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenville is a stationary vehicle before Giluli's interchange. The M2 eastbound in central Johannesburg, a crash before Heidelberg Road, and the N1 southbound slow moving towards the N17 Soweto exit. In KZN, the M13 westbound in Hillcrest is where a crash is reported. That's before Old Main Road. The M4 northbound is slow moving through Umhlanga, and the N3 eastbound, a stationary truck reported at Cliffdale. In Cape Town, on the N2, there's a major crash reported in that central wilderness area, causing heavy delays. The M5 southbound is slow-moving towards the N2 highway, and Main Road is slow-moving through Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Power, land, loyalty, blood. In the heart of Montana, the fight for the Dutton Ranch is far from over. Betrayals cut deep, enemies close in, and every choice could be their last. Yellowstone, Season 4, where family is everything and nothing is off limits. Every Tuesday, starting September 2nd at 7 p.m, only on S3. S3, open up.
Mzansi, Powerball is bringing the thrill with a jaw-dropping 110 million rand estimated jackpot this Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 110 million rand jackpot today and step closer to a world of endless possibilities. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, it's a Friday. It's the fireside chats that we have on a Friday for the next, for an hour up to 6 o'clock. And I can tell you now that, so last week I went, 2 weeks back, in fact, I went to Pretoria from Joburg and opted for an 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock meeting to use the Gautrain, and then 2 weeks later did the same thing. And I've often spoken about it, that I thoroughly enjoy the Gautrain, and I think the real challenge is, like, can we multiply the Gautrain? Because if we can do that for the whole city of Joburg and multiply other cities, the other metros like Cape Town and Durban, that's what other cities in other countries do, right? But I can also tell you, as I enjoyed it once again, because I've used it extensively in the past, the first person that I thought about was Jack van der Merwe. And I did, because there's two people I linked to the Gautrain. One is the Shalowa Express, Imbazima Shalowa, right? And the second one, of course, is yourself. And I'm glad to say that, having thought about you, because in my mind, as I'm sitting in the train with my wife and I'm thinking about the people that were behind it, I thought about you. And then, of course, Temba, my producer, tells me a few days later, it's like, we're having our guest for the fireside chat, and it's Jack van der Merwe, the pilot behind the Gautrain. So there you are. You're the fireside chat guest. Thanks for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I mean, so you retired, I think around 2020, right? Somewhere there.
No. Well, I retired from Gautrain 2020.
Okay.
But then I was asked to set up a transport authority for Gauteng. So I spent 3 years there, 4 years actually. And then I retired for 3.5 weeks. But then the Minister of Transport came and fetched me, and I'm now the special advisor to the Minister of Transport.
Oh, I see. Okay, and how are you finding that? I mean, obviously now transport is your gig. It's your speciality, right?
Well, I mean, Barbara Creasy is a very hardworking lady, and so I love it. I love working there, and it's in the environment. So I have the history, and they've got a thing going to see whether they can catch me out with something that they're going to ask me that I don't know. But up to now, it's still worked out that I at least know.
What does a special advisor do then? Half the people listening say, these special advisors, they get money and they do nothing and nobody takes their advice. But what does a special advisor do?
No, I mean, the minister has got 16 state-owned entities reporting to her, plus the department. So she gets lots of technical memorandums coming to her, and I just advise her whether I think it's right or whether something should change. So it's just giving her extra sort of like pair of eyes onto the documentation she gets.
Okay. When else did you use the Gautrain?
Well, I use it quite often, although now that my office is in Pretoria,
right.
So, and I live in Pretoria, so I don't use it very often. But I used it, say, twice a week, 3 times a week, because if you're in my job, there's a lot of politics involved, and you get the Premier phones you or the MEC phones you, so you have to be able to move. So it's not that I can be a permanent user, a daily user.
But when you do use it, I mean, do you get like, do you have honorary membership of
no,
in terms of, hey, we don't charge you, mahala, that's it, or what?
No, but I can get an honorary kick out of getting onto it and seeing it works properly.
Yeah.
And what I like you say, it was part of your journey trip planning going to Pretoria.
Yeah.
What I always remember, the day we opened it 3 days before the Soccer World Cup, and the first train left at 5:30 in the morning, and we were there for this inaugural ride. But there were about 20 people on the platform with their suitcases, and they were going to the airport, and they were going to travel somewhere else. So immediately it became part of their daily work and their daily planning for transport, and that's what you really want public transport to be. It must be sort of like hardwired into you that you'll get into the bus.
And it has to be this notion that in South Africa it's got to be the working class who uses public transport and not the middle class and the wealthy. I mean, you would know from your examples, and I'm sure you've done the studies in other countries in the world, in Europe, in North Africa, in the USA, in the Middle East as well. Everybody uses public transport, isn't it?
You get two users of public transport. You get a user of force and a user of choice. A user of force doesn't have an option, and you can actually give that person a bad service because that person doesn't have an option. But if you start drawing in people who are at the moment driving on Ben Schoeman with their BMW, they have a choice. So if you give them bad service, they will go away. And I think that's what overseas happens, is that it's not a question of poor or rich. It's a question of, have you got do you put a premium on your time? If you know it's going to take you 40 minutes instead of maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, maybe you're going to be stuck. And it becomes the intelligent choice. But in South Africa, the bulk of our public transport users are people with no other options. So they people with...
Very, very true, actually, yeah. Well, I'm going to talk about general transport as well, but let's just stay with the Gautrain for the moment. So has the Gautrain turned out the way that you envisaged it?
Yes, I think when we started off, we were hoping there's really a few categories of people. It would be an induced demand that somebody who's not, living in Pretoria and working in Joburg, but now there's a better option, so they do. So that was the one group. But the other group is people that would move away from private car use into public transport. And that would have been the level of success. And within a few years, 77% of our riders were people of choice that had alternatives to use, but this was making more sense for them to use it. And I think that's where the success was, is that you start drawing these people of choice.
So now, that was then, say 2010, fast forward like 15 years later.
Yeah, I think, public transport only works Well, any transport system works if it's a network, if it's a network. So we built the first 80 kilometers, 10 stations, and the idea was that we would always extend that. So we did the planning from going from Mamelodi through up to Soweto, and that would have then increased the network. But our country's got a challenge on money, and that has been shelved. So I think that's the only unsuccessful thing that's happened, is that Gautrain wasn't expanded as it normally would be in over other countries.
Just even a few kilometers at a time and just move on. But I mean, is there a plan now? Because we've seen some of the designs around it.
I know they've done the design. Everything is right. We are just waiting for the Minister of Finance to actually strike a pot of gold somewhere and say, here's the money.
But I mean, can't they raise funding for that as a special project? Let's say even from overseas.
Well, remember, Gautrain was a public-private partnership, so the overseas companies came and they put in equity into it. They will be willing to put in more equity because it's been proven to work. But there's still a lot of source money that has to come from government. And that we just have higher priorities in terms of education, health, security, housing.
Some may say transport is such a big priority anyway. We are chatting to Jack van der Merwe, who's I would say he was the project head, if I got it right, of the Gautrain, right? Yeah. Is that right?
Yes. Right. Well, in 1997, I went to Germany with the then Premier Toke Sekwale. And we went to Herr Streuber of Bavaria, and he said to Herr Streuber, we had to buy a train, and Jack van der Merwe was going to buy it. So that's where it started, and then we started doing the feasibility. So I've been there since inception.
So whose idea was it? I mean, I'm trying to think back. Was there a day where, like four friends get together and say, we must go on an overseas trip on holiday next year, then they agree and they plan. So in the same way, it wasn't like an obvious thing for most other people. So something must have happened. There had to be one conversation that sparked it all off.
Well, I think Jabo Moleketi, who was the MEC for Finance, and Shilowa, who was the Premier, they said Gauteng is the economic heart of the country. But how do we stay the economic heart? How do we keep on growing? And then they developed this Blue IQ, the 10 projects. And they were 10 projects of which the train was one. So one of the projects was saying we need a public transport system that's dependable, that will link the economic hubs with each other. So that was actually born there. And I think going back, the cabinet, our exco that took that decision way back in 1999, and it was announced with the Premier with the State of the Province address in 2000. That's where it was born. It was born as one of the 10 Blue IQ projects. And so they must get credit for taking that leap.
Yeah, and I think, we, in talking about other things in South Africa, and we're very critical of many things, that has certainly been a stellar investment, even though it's not always jam-packed, but I mean, it's there and it's used, right? And you want more people to use it, but can you imagine if that was not there? Again, there have been more cars on the highways, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Look, I mean, I've been in government all the time. I had 12 MECs and I had 7 premiers. And so they tend to have a very short planning horizon. And for them to make a leap of faith of saying we're going to build something that's going to take us 10 years to build, that we'll get the benefits in 15 years, it takes a brave person to make that decision. And rather than say, we're going to cut a ribbon in the next 2 years, what is ribbonable?
Yeah.
So I think they stuck their necks out.
Yeah. Okay, lots more to come from Jack van der Merwe. So let's go back to your own career. I mean, the fact that you became project head, that means that you obviously had to have some expertise in engineering or transport. But let's go back. I mean, to the early days of your life. Where did it all happen?
Well, we grew up very poor, and I didn't have money to come to university. And Nombula Mokoyane, when she was Premier, she always said, Van der Merwe, tell your story. So I got a 400 Rand bursary to do my first year engineering, 400 for my second year, 600 Rand for my third year, and 600 Rand for my fourth year. So government gave me 2,000 rand, and I've worked back 53 years for them.
Oh, so you got it from government, but which department?
Well, that's another story. I got a bursary from the government, and they then sent me a book and said, these are the departments that have civil engineers.
Mhm.
So you can choose one where you'd like to work. And on the off chance that you don't get the first choice, you must have a second choice. So I chose water affairs as my first choice.
Oh, goodness.
And
Yeah.
I chose public works as my second. And 6 months later, I got a letter saying, congratulations, you've been allocated to the TPA roads.
So you didn't get the second choice either?
I didn't even get the second choice. So I ended up in roads, and I started working in 1972. And this is now my 53rd. I'm in my 54th year.
That's incredible, yeah. And I mean, you've been effectively on the road,
yeah,
since then until now, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been in transport. You know, we actually spoke about it earlier this week. The TPA had a fleet of Caterpillar yellow machines. We had 2,000 yellow machines. It was the biggest Caterpillar fleet in the world. We used to build 450 kilometers of road per year in the province. So we actually opened up Transvaal.
Mhm.
All the roads. I had the Eastern Transvaal was my region. So all the roads that was built there, I was on those roads. I used to go for site inspections and once a month going there. So I've been in transport, and then in 95, they set up strategic management teams to set up new departments. And I was head of a strategic management team that had to set up the new Gauteng department. So I set that up, and I was made DG of that department, and that's where it started. So I was DG of transport and public works at that stage, up to 2006, and then I was running the Gautrain parallel, the planning of it, and then Shalowa said to me, it's too complicated, you can only do one of two, I want you to just focus on the train.
Mhm.
So then we created the transporter, the Gautrain Management Agency. We wrote the legislation, set up the department, and we ran it from there.
Okay, quite remarkable. By the way, you can engage with Jack van der Merwe if you know him personally. You can also engage with him if you use the Gautrain, but also if you want to just pick up comments about transport, but also, if you want to pick up something around leadership that clearly does come through. So how do you call in? 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. You can also tweet as well using that hashtag, the National Pulse. So let's then fast forward to where you're now. So you're this advisor, right? What do you feel? I mean, what's the state? Now, I'm not talking Gautrain, the state of transport, public transport in our country.
I think there's islands of excellence, but we still need to integrate it. We have a logistics chain that we have to, from pit to port, bring in our commodities that we are exporting. We have to bring in transport, Sunrail, those. We have to bring in passenger transport on metro rail. So this is something that it'll take some time to get it all together. If we can keep Minister Creasy in her job for the next 5 or 6 years, I think we'll go a long way.
But that's important. What happens when, of course, these are government appointments, and up to now it's been like one political party in the main, right, the ANC, but it's still at the discretion of the president to appoint a cabinet minister. Now, if we're having the fluidity that we're having right now, and we are having that fluidity, you're saying that just even outside of politics, that from an implementation point of view, you need one or two people to drive a project for a good number of years.
Although if one looks at overseas, politics is a 4-year, 5-year, and overseas you get, parties, the Republicans and the Democrats and the Labour and those people, Conservatives in England, they change. What should stay would be the officials, the DGs and that. But unfortunately, they are changing with the ministers. And that's where you don't get consistency. So you can live with having a minister being changed quite often, but you can't have both. You can't have the minister plus top
and
management.
the DG is the engine room. In fact, Tim from KZN saying, Ashraf, please ask Jack as to why the combi taxi industry is not regulated and doesn't abide by their basic conditions of employment and more regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be here until Sunday, 6 o'clock.
Maybe we've got time.
but no, what does happen, or what did happen with the taxis? They were specifically left unregulated by the previous government, and
so when you say like apartheid South Africa,
yes, apartheid, right. And so we are picking up the remnants of that. What we have is that public transport is a social service. And if public transport transports the bulk of people in a lower income bracket, public transport will always be subsidized. Now we have a whole section of public transport, the minibus taxis that aren't subsidized.
Yeah.
And that's where this whole thing comes in. If you pay the piper, you can call the tune. So we are really working hard to see how do we bring them closer in by paying them, or looking at how do we help them financially, and then force compliance and stuff.
So they receive no subsidization,
nothing whatsoever. None.
But and what about any partnerships that's a government would engage with them?
No, there's nothing at the moment. What we do have, we have a scrapping allowance, but that's just to take the very old taxis off out of the system. But it's not a lot of money, and it's not working very effectively. So
why was it unregulated in apartheid South Africa, sir?
Well, I think the government, I don't know, I can't talk on their behalf, but I think they thought if they keep it unregulated, it would fall apart. But it didn't fall apart. It is now, of all public transport users, the taxis now transport 80% of all public transport.
Amazing, eh?
People in the country. So it's a major player. And again, if I keep on saying we need to integrate, you can't have an integrated plan and not have the taxis in the fold. Then you're bluffing yourself.
So what would you do? I mean, is that part of the advice you would give Barbara Creecy, for example, now?
If you ask me. No. Look, the thing is, Jobo Moleketi, when he was MEC for finance, he used to say, government is making a choice between, say, 50 good projects, and you only have money for 5. So it's not a question of saying what is good and what's bad, because that would be easy. You would develop something to say these are rubbish projects. But he says you'll have 50 very good projects, but they would be from different angles. They'll be housing or education or welfare or whatever. And you in government, you have to prioritize then 5 of them. And that's the challenge. That is really the challenge. That how do you do that?
And the last thing on that, I mean, there's not a day that, yes, people don't call in here about these taxi fights and warfare amongst each other and amongst others, and then I'm talking about the Zola Butt type of taxis saying, no, the Ubers are in the way and this one, and then the other taxis and the Ubers, like it's just ongoing, a minefield. I mean, what's your thought on why that's been allowed to fester and happen?
Well, the thing is that it starts becoming a security issue and not a transport issue. It becomes an issue where taxis protect their routes that are given. And we are very strict that a taxi would get a route running from, say, Johannesburg to Soweto. But an Uber has got an area where they can transport in. So Uber's got much more flexibility of moving around in the city. And the taxis don't like it. So again, there's a lot of diplomacy. Maybe one thing that I've discovered is that the easiest part of my life is the engineering part, because it's mathematics. It never changes.
And nobody can challenge you. I mean, really. But I mean, it's you.
If you understand the mathematics, it's there forever. Yeah. People are difficult. It's difficult to manage expectations, manage people.
How do you deal with people?
Well, my life as a professional engineer, up to 95, I was just an engineer. My whole life was just with engineers. In 95, I become Director General. I get 6,500 people working for me.
And that changed it all.
And now people want to come into your office and close the door and talk about their aspirations and their dreams. And I'm sitting there thinking, there's nothing at university that I studied to help me with this. And you just have to sort of like work within that environment. You have to learn. So I've tried to multitask in that sense.
Okay, and hope he succeeds in some way. More to come from Jack van der Merwe. We'll have there's a bit of a break. He can take a chill for a few minutes because we have sport, we have we have the markets, and of course we have the news headlines, which is right now with Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In the headlines, the MK party slammed the Concord judgment, which dismissed former President Zuma and the MK party's bid to overturn 3 key decisions made by President Ramaphosa in July. The Auditor General's issued a second consecutive unqualified audit opinion for the SABC, and British police say one of 2 Jewish men killed in an attack on a synagogue yesterday appeared to have been hit by police gunfire. There's more and on that story and other news at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Pretoria has heavy traffic reported towards the N4 Imalahleni exit. On Rietfontein Road, southbound in Boksburg, there's a crash near Ravenswood Road. And on Hendrik Potgieter Road in Little Falls, a crash near Nick Dietrichs Boulevard. In KZN, the M7 is where a crash is reported on that N2 highway. The M13 westbound in Hillcrest has a crash before Old Main Road, and the N3 eastbound, a stationary truck at Cliffdale. In Cape Town, the Stormers will host the Ospreys at DHL Stadium this evening, so expect quite a bit of slow-moving traffic on local routes. The N2 inbound has a crash at Hospital Bend, and the R300 southbound, a crash before the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Tumi, just a quick one. You know, I was part of the SABC engagement platform today. You know, the state of the SABC, and I was program director. But my guest, amongst the many other people, was the Bafana coach, right? And I'm talking of Hugo, right? And he made the point that he reflected on a long time ago when he just started how the players were coming late for training, until he gave the bus driver the ultimatum. If they're late for training and we have to go to the training ground, you leave them stranded and you just carry on, otherwise you lose your job. And that instilled a discipline in the team that they've never looked back on. Yeah, I thought I'll just tell you that.
You can see, I guess, the performance that they give on the field. It starts from when they are in training and some of the disciplines that they have to implement before they even get on the field. So kudos to Hugo Bruce. But this hour, we're starting off with cricket, where South African captain Laura Vilvoorde has vowed her side will bounce back. This is after a crushing 10-wicket defeat to England in their tournament opener today. The Proteas were bundled out for 69, with left-arm spinner Lindsay Smith wreaking havoc, taking 3 for 7 in 4 overs. England's reply was ruthless as openers Amy Jones hit 40 off 49 balls and Tammy Bowman 21 of 35 to seal the chase with ease, cruising to 70 without loss in just 14 overs. Next up for South Africa is New Zealand on Monday at 11:30.
Definitely, I think this tournament is massive for us as a team. The opportunity that we have to possibly make semis and a final and win a tournament like this is absolutely amazing for all those young girls back at home to see us play on the global stage. Obviously not the way we would have liked to start today, but like I said, I think we need to just park this game as quickly as we can. I think each and every one of us know that we are much better than 69 all out. I think, we individually want to score more than 69, so it's just a day that we need to forget as quickly as we can and really move on and keep doing our processes, keep sticking up to our preparation for the next game.
In rugby, the Springboks are firm favourites to wrap up a second straight rugby championship title for the first time when they face Argentina at Twickenham tomorrow at 3 p.m. This year's tournament has been one of the most exciting and unpredictable since the Los Pumas joined the Boks, All Blacks and Wallabies in the Southern Hemisphere competition in 2012. Now, the Springboks top the table by a single point heading into the 6th and final round of matches this weekend, and a bonus point victory against the Pumas in London would definitely guarantee the world champions the title. This is regardless of the result in Perth between Australia and New Zealand earlier tomorrow. Here's Springboks Damian Dialandi.
The travelling was a lot easier, and obviously fighting it, there's obviously no jet lag, so I had nothing to fight with that part. But Yeah, it's a neutral ground. We have played here quite a lot and against different opposition in the past, so we are quite familiar with it. But yeah, within saying that, Argentina has also played here quite a lot against England. So yeah, I don't think there's advantage for them or advantage for us. It is a neutral ground. And I think, yeah, I don't know, I think there's already been 60,000 tickets sold. So I think the atmosphere in the stadiums will be incredible. We're all looking forward to that. But yeah, I don't see any one of us have an advantage. I think they also travelled on Sunday, so we've been here for about the same amount of time.
Well, moving on to netball, Spar Proteas captain Khanyisa Chawana says that the team is in high spirits. This is ahead of their first test match against Australia at Red Energy Stadium tomorrow. South Africa will go into this 3-day test series looking for redemption. This is coming on the back of losing to Tiny Jameson Trophy in their previous tour to New Zealand. And Chawana says that the team is excited and really ready to face the world champions.
Quite excited, especially coming from the series that we were at and coming into this new one. Everyone is just excited for the challenge that's coming. So yeah, the mood is great. Everyone is excited. So yeah, and we're just looking forward to actually getting on court and just continue performing like how we've started already.
Well, that match is going to get underway from 11:30. Then also there's curling knockout action to look forward to this weekend. And Mamelodi Sundowns head coach Miguel Cardoso has warned that this season's campaign will definitely be tough, stressing that every team is motivated to topple them. Speaking ahead of that first round clash against Marumo Gallants this weekend, Cardoso says that supporters must understand that Sundowns face extra pressure because of their dominance in South African football. And despite that dominance, the Tshwane Giants struggle in the domestic cup competitions has really been a talking point over the past decade, particularly in the last 5 years. And Cardoso has admitted that the results so far this season are proof that Sundowns are in for another testing campaign. Their game against Marumo Gallants is going to be at 8 p.m. tomorrow. However, as I did mention, curling knockout action is this weekend and it's starting tonight with Durban City hosting Polokwane City, and that one is at 7 p.m. Elsewhere, Barcelona winger Lamine Yamal will miss the match against Sevilla. This is following the reappearance of his discomfort in his pubic area. Then in motorsport, Oscar Piastri topped the timesheets in the second practice session ahead of the Grand Prix. The McLaren driver clocked 1 minute 30.714 seconds. Rookie Isaac Hadjar continued to turn heads, finishing just 0.132 seconds behind Piastri in an impressive second place, while reigning world champion Max Verstappen slotted into third, narrowly trailing by 0.143 seconds as the leading trio was separated by less than 0.2 of a second. So looking forward to great action there at the Singapore Grand Prix. Before I say goodbye, Ashraf, predictions for this weekend. I'm
keeping quiet. Yeah? You go ahead. Yeah.
I'm going to start off with netball. Spar Proteas versus Australia. My gut says Australia is going to win this one. The Springboks versus Argentina. The Springboks. Stellenbosch versus Kaizer Chiefs. I know a lot of people are going to come for me for this one, but I think Stellies is going to win it. Chelsea versus Liverpool. Liverpool is going to win that one. And the Singapore Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri.
Okay, got your 5. And do come to work on Monday. I'm just telling you.
Definitely coming. With that said,
let's see how many she'll get. More sport. Yeah, Monday. We'll see how many gets. 4 out of 10, 4 out of 5, 2 out of 5. We shall see about that. Right, let's get to we're going to get to the markets next.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Moyaha brings us that. No SFM market update today, but you certainly got all the big stories to tell us, Jimmy.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I certainly do. It seems as though the
United States has hindered us from getting data, non-farms jobs data today, so there was no data release there. That seems to have an impact on the market as we saw the price of gold continue to move up. It was up at $3,887 a fine ounce, very close to the $3,900 level. The price of Brent crude, $64.72 a barrel. Platinum also moving up above $1,600, $1,642. Palladium's almost at $1,300 a fine ounce. The stronger move in commodity prices has meant that the resource counters for the day finished up about 1.6%. But the other sectors did have a green day as well. Industrials were up 1.2%, financials up 1.89%, the all share up 1.5%, and the top 40 up 1.5%. So markets seemingly interpreting the news of the U.S. shutdown or the government shutdown as a move towards equity markets. And we look at international equity markets, they were all in the green except for the DAX in Germany and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong. Every other market, including the European and Asian markets, were trading in the green. The biggest winner in Asian markets was the Nikkei, up about 1.8%. Currently, the Nasdaq is up about 0.25%, with the S&P up about 0.4%. So the markets are likely going to continue this positive momentum going into next week. Let's take a look at the currency side of it. The rand gaining its ground back at 17 rand 22 against the US dollar, 23.20 against the pound, and 20 rand and 23 cents against the euro. 1 Australian dollar, 11 rand 38. 1 Bitcoin is above $120,000 once again, $121,000 odd above the 2 million rand mark, even with the stronger rand at the moment. So going into next week, we'll look to see what develops out of the U.S. that will likely give direction on where we go to from here. We've got a couple of U.S. Fed governors speaking today as well in the U.S., so we'll keep an eye on that and perhaps get an indication of what the Fed is thinking in response to where the labor market is in the United States. But going into the weekend, a stronger rand, new all-time highs on the JSE, and a stronger gold price that's almost at $3,900 a fine ounce. Looks like a good week, and it looks like there's a lot of momentum going into next week. We'll keep an eye on things, and we'll be back on Monday. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Yeah, have a great weekend. We shall certainly connect on Monday. Jimmy, thanks for that, right? Okay, so more to come. In fact, more from Jack van der Merwe after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So today's fireside chat with Jack van der Merwe, the man who piloted, was a key member of the Gautrain, the establishment of that, and then, of course, became the CEO of the Gautrain. And now is an advisor to the Minister of Transport, Barbara Creecy, but that's where he is and doing other things too. In fact, there's a couple of comments that I want to pick out on. Here's one from Hassan Mohammed, who just messaged me to say, hey, I really enjoyed Jack van der Merwe discussion. He speaks lots of sense with great knowledge, and it comes through. And I must say, there's lots of common sense in what you say.
Thank you.
No need to argue about that anyway. But here's another from Klanati Khachai saying, good conversation you are having there on the road. On the road infrastructure, can your guest comment on whether the massive tendering of road maintenance is effective? In the olden days, government departments did road maintenance, not the outsourcing as it is the main issue now. That's a tweet, yeah?
Yeah. I think one of the tragedies in our country is that it's not realized that if one does infrastructure, you have to do a life cycle costing of it. Mm-hmm. So the moment you build something, you have to maintain it. And I think that's where things are falling apart, is the maintenance side. So what is, of course, better than nothing is that you give that out to contracts. But the idea is that you should have a basic fleet of yellow machines that could do the maintenance work, and you should have teams that can do it, because otherwise the tender document is saying, if there's a pothole or if there's something wrong, you must be able to within 3 hours come to fix it. And now you have a contractor sitting in Joburg, he gets his tender in Polokwane, and he then charges you for that extra trip, so it becomes more expensive. So one must really look at and the thing about infrastructure, you can't just leave it, because if you leave it, it deteriorates. You have the elements, rain, water.
Even if you can't afford it. I mean, somehow you have to make a plan.
Yeah. Well, a very good example, if Bill Gates were to gift us with a hospital, a $1 billion hospital, within 2 years, the yearly cost of running the hospital is R1 billion. So if somebody gives you a hospital for free, you must be able to say, I'll be able to service that hospital forever and ever and ever. So it's a gift that,
or else,
or else you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
So I think Sonral is a very good example of an entity that looks after its infrastructure. So you'll find a very little amount of potholes and stuff like that because they do the preventative maintenance.
Okay.
The other thing about maintenance, I just may say, you have programmed maintenance and you have unprogrammed maintenance. Now, programmed maintenance you can plan and it's got a fixed cost. Unprogrammed maintenance, you know it's going to break in the middle of the night, it's going to break on a Sunday, and then it's going to cost you much more. So you have to have a maintenance plan, and it has to be a programmed maintenance plan.
Yeah. Well, fascinating. Let's talk about your personal leadership qualities. I mean, how would you describe yourself?
Well, again, I said earlier that my life is in two parts: post 95 and pre 95. I used to think, before 95, if you had 3 engineers in a meeting, it's a good meeting. If you had 6 engineers, it was a great meeting. If you have 10 engineers, it's a magic meeting. I've now come to the conclusion, if you have more than 2 engineers, you're wasting their time because they are just going to give you the same again.
Okay.
So in a meeting, you have to have multiple skills. It has to be a multiple team. And in Gautrain, we succeeded in having financial, legal, communication. About the half of the international awards we won on Gautrain were communication awards, because we know that you have to sell. You have to sell what you're doing. You can't just say this
Absolutely.
is engineering and it's good. So I think the first thing is that working in a team. The only thing that you must realize if you work in a team, everybody in the team must know more about his or her subject than what you know. So you, in the end, I feel like a conductor in an orchestra.
Okay.
You must just keep the music going.
Play.
And I'm always worried that if the conductor were to have a heart attack, the band will only know when they stop playing. When the song is finished.
But in that vein, I mean, what for you would be like say your greatest skill? I don't mean engineering. That's what you're good at, right? But in terms of your human interpersonal skills, what's the one thing for you that gives you an edge?
I think I can think strategically. I can think a little bit further ahead, because if a person who's sweeping the streets works hard, he can go home at night and tell his wife, my 3 street blocks are the cleanest in the city, and I'm tired, and he can feel he's done his job. Or the managing director can do his job. The only difference between the two is the horizon of their planning. The street vendor or the street cleaner, he's worried about what's going to happen this weekend. His long-term planning is maybe what he does at the end of the year for the holiday. If the boss of Microsoft isn't thinking 20 years ahead, the company won't make it. So I think I have the ability to see or to plan further ahead.
Okay, South Africa in 10 years' time? Plan ahead now, tell me.
Well,
I didn't say transport, I'm saying anything.
Yeah. No, look, I think you have to start choosing people based on their skills rather than based on a specific group or a specific political party. You have to choose the best people. I think in Gautrain we chose the best people. I never appointed somebody because of some grouping. I appointed somebody, if I needed a lawyer, I appointed the best lawyer I could find, the best engineer I could find, and that works. So I think if we can make that step to say the best people. I mean, if you look at Sputla Ramaphosa, that's what he's done with Eskom, They were messing around, but now he's got people there that know what they're doing. And now
it's a quick turnaround. I mean, it's not perfect. We can also argue they're making too much profit and they're charging too much, but the stability has happened very quickly.
And I mean, if 2 years ago I said to you we're going to have 120 or 140 or 200 days load shedding free, you'd say I'm smoking my socks. So and I think that's what happens. I think one must be able to influence people. You must be able to listen to a different point of view. But in the end, you have to be able to take a decision. But you have to be able to say, I've got 10 people, each one's got an angle. his or her angle onto the problem. Listen to everyone and then say, fine, we're going to take this decision and then stick to it and then take responsibility for that.
Yeah, in fact, I want to find out more about things that you enjoy doing. Like, do you read? We'll find out next.
Spar brings you super savings. Like 2-ply Baby Soft toilet rolls, 18s for $124.99 and get 300 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 3 kg Sunlight hand wash powder for $79.99 and get 200 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Competition ends 7 October. Price is valid 23 September to 7 October 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Think about 6 years ago, when Amapiano was just a musical instrument, when streaming meant watching water flow, not videos online, and remote work was only said when your remote batteries died. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
We have different languages and cultures, but what we have in common is that we all want a dignified funeral and for our loved ones not to worry about money when the time comes. Trust Clientele to provide you with affordable funeral cover that will pay out within 24 hours. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's SAFM to 48031. SMS now. Clientele Life is a licensed life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates, terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, another 8-9 minutes to go with Jack van der Merwe on the Friday Fireside Chat. By the way, there's a couple more questions, but and I'll always lead this to you, if you know my guest, if you know Jack van der Merwe personally, especially in this context, it's that you'll jump to the front of the queue, because we'd love to engage, maybe something you want to share, a good story. I mean, in fact, do you have a good Gautrain story, that you can tell the family and friends after dinner? So, let me tell you a story.
What I used to do, I have a book that I write everything in, and at the back of the book I write things that I would do differently if I have a choice again. So half my books are written from the back to forward, and there are millions of stories, but you need a long time to tell it. But I think I can just tell you, I get a email. In England, they discovered, or they developed, private-public partnerships. They call them PFIs. And so I get a text saying, we've been nominated for a prize at their gala dinner. So I've got my lawyer is Mecha Ledwaba. And I say to Mecha, do you have a tuxedo? He says, no. I say, get one, we're going to London. So we go to London, and we get there, and it's in a Dorchester hotel, and there's 1,500 people with tuxedos on. And they say, who are you? And I say, Van der Merwe and Ledwaba. And they spit on the floor, and they say, what are you here for? And I say, Gautrain. And they say, you just have to make them numbers. So we're sitting there, and they have a TV presenter, and they have all these awards. But the biggest award is the best public-private partnership to be signed in the world for 2006. And we're sitting there, and they say, the best public-private partnership that's been signed in the world is Gautrain. Yeah. Wow. Mecha starts crying, and I say, Mecha, let's go and show them what Gauteng looks like. So we walk up there and we say, this is it. This is Van der Merwe and Ledwaba Mzwayi. And we are here for Gautrain. So, I mean, there's stories like that. We build the trains. We started building them in Derby. Yeah. So we get there, and they have a big launch. We have all the politicians there, Shilowa's there. And it starts raining, but it's a storm, and everybody's embarrassed. And I say, look, in Africa, if you have a function and it rains, you're blessed. We Absolutely. Are blessed with it. So they thought it's going to be a disaster. We said it was great, So no, it's been a very nice, journey.
Yeah, and how many global acknowledgements did when I say it's either you or the Gautrain?
In the end, we won about 35 international prizes. I get a call, and a guy on the phone says, we've written a book, and it has all the mega projects in the world. And South Africa's got 2. So I say, yeah. He says one is Gautrain because it was a success. One is Medupi because it wasn't a success. So I say, well, thank you. So he says, don't you want to come and talk to us about it? So I say, who are you? He says he's from Oxford University.
Yeah.
So they fly me to London, and there they have a course, a master's degree in project management. And so I go into the hall, and there's a vase there with Madiba on it, with his boxing gloves. So I say, I know that man. He says, don't worry about that. Look at the hall you're going to give the lecture in. And it's the Madiba hall.
Oh, really?
And I walk in there, and there are 70 students. They're all 40, 45, 50. They're all CEOs. They run these mega projects in the world. And the professor says to them, we've taught you the theory. This is the bugger that's built it. You can ask him how to do it, Yeah. So I go there twice a year, and I visit them, and I do the lecture there. And I think, man, this is magic. So you go into these sacred halls of them and that. And they're listening to what we're doing. The World Bank has sent me all over the world to go and lecture on public-private partnerships. So I went to Russia. They translated my slides into Russian. So I'm standing there, and I've got 2 computers, and the one has got the Russian slides, and the one's got the English slides. And it's like playing organ in a church. My English slides were going up, and the Russian slides were going down. And at some stage, a guy put up his hand and said, "There's no synchronization." We better start again. So,
what lovely stories, man. So, just talking about public-private participation, and I'm picking up what you're saying. So, I often ask this of people. How do you champion South Africa? Like, what do you do now to champion your nation?
Look, what the minister has done, we've given out a request for information on the Transnet side. So, and we've got a massive response back, and we are now going to give out type of public-private partnerships. So this is where you actually say to the world, invest in your country, bring your world's best practice into the country, and do skills transfer. In the case of Gautrain, we got the biggest construction company in the world, Bouygues, from France. And in the contract we wrote, they have for 15 years. The first 5 years they could have the French people here. The second 5 years they could have a maximum of 10 people here. In the last 5 years, everything had to be run by South Africans. So they all the skill of running a train with this punctuality and availability was part of the contract. So you can, in the contract, can you actually sell your country?
Yeah. Good point. What's the one thing we can do next? Not necessarily we as a country. What's the next big thing we should be targeting?
Well, I think the next big thing is that we have to start. I mean, if we have a financial crisis, if you can start looking at public-private partnerships of projects that have a loan supportable revenue coming into it, that will immediately extend our fiscus. It will extend the amount of money that we have. So we have to, Sputla Ramagopa has to start building new power stations. Transnet has to start building new rail, freight system. So this is a way of bringing in new money into infrastructure. And infrastructure has got a multiplier effect. I mean, we in Gautrain, we needed 20 million bags of cement. And they had a cement factory in Lichtenburg that had been mothballed. Mm-hmm. And we started saying we need we need cement. And in Lichtenburg, they started opening the factory, and they were getting jobs, and they were people selling food on the streets.
Amazing, eh?
And they didn't know why are we making cement now? And we said, no, we're moving it 250, 300 kilometers to Gautrain to pump it into Sandton, into the hole.
Sure, amazing. So, listen, our time is just about up. We've got about a minute to go. So maybe 3 quick questions. A book you suggest we must read, and give a shout out to a young South African. And what's your one question to the president of the country? And you got a minute.
Sure. No. Well, maybe my shot to the young people is to say, if you, in an ever-changing world, if you think you're going to get a degree, put it on a frame in your office. After 3 years, you can take that degree and throw it away. You have to be continuously learning. If you don't learn every day, you die. So my philosophy is that you can be old at 20, but you can be young at 80. So I'm going to try and be young at 90 by keeping on learning. The other thing is that you have to be a student for the rest of your life. You have to say, I've got a degree, but I will update that degree as I go along. Otherwise it's going to become
it's like a car that needs maintenance. Okay, we're on to news time. Your one question to the president?
Appoint more engineers.
Okay, well, hopefully you'll get that. Your time's up, but you're continuously learning, as you've said, so it's been a privilege talking to you. In fact, there's so much wisdom that's come through even now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Next time I need to sit with you on the Gautrain and talk while we're on that journey. Now, that would be something. Jack van der Merwe, the pilot, the head of the Gautrain, and then the CEO of that Gautrain. But now, of course, doing other things in the transport space here. Thanks for joining in on the Fireside Chat. We'll have a podcast of that also put up soon. Right now, it's 6 o'clock. Here's the news with Greg.
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.